referred me to Leon to do it. And, okay.
Before she can go ahead and make the announcement, police chief, chief just said about the door. Or do you want to go into the people go behind these stairs and watch it? But if they want to come whenever it's time, they can come. But they can't stand at the door.
Okay.
You want to?
Yeah, I'll do it. Where is it at? In the lobby. Okay.
Did you want to read that?
I don't know if you felt like it was appropriate for you to read it.
Oh, I brought it.
We got a ton of those. I guess we can just read them if they're brief.
You all ready? Ready? So we're going to start the meeting. According to the police chief, we have too many people in here. We can't keep the doors open that way. There is a TV in the lobby if anyone would like to go down and watch from the lobby and then come back up for public comments section. So we're coming out of a closed session. Closed meeting certification. Whereas the Council of City of Martinsville, Virginia has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to the affirmative record vote in accordance with Virginia Freedom of Information Act, whereas Section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by City Council that such closed meeting be conducted in conformity with said act. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the City of Martinsville, Virginia hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements under Section 2.2-3711 and only such public business matters were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was conveyed, were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting by council. Do we have a motion to effect? Madam Clerk, is that a roll call?
Councilmember Morton?
Yes.
Councilmember Pearson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ross?
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes. There was no action tonight in that closed section. So we would like to welcome everybody here tonight. It's a lot of smiling faces. Just so everybody knows, there is a printed agenda in the back. If you are watching live from at home, there is an agenda also on the website, Martinsville City website. Please, everyone would rise for the pledge. And immediately following, we'll have our invocation by Pastor Kelvin Perry of Grace United Presbyterian Church. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us bow our heads in prayer. Most gracious and Heavenly Father, we gather here today with bowed heads and humble hearts. Heavenly Father, I ask that you surround your presence in these chambers today. I ask that you watch over these council members as they deliberate about what is best for your people, the citizens of this community. Heavenly Father, I ask that you give them the insight, the discernment that they need to have to move things forward. I pray for all the workers who work under them and who help this city to move forward. So as they move forward and as things continue to progress, we ask that you be in everything that is done. Heavenly Father, we give you all the honor, the praise, and the glory on this evening. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
First item of business is approval of minutes of December 13th, 2022 and January 3rd of 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Is there a second? All in favor, please note by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion passes. And for those following the agenda, there will be some rearranging of some of the items on there. The next item of business, we will consider an adoption, a resolution of terminating reversion. Councilwoman Pearson.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Before I read the resolution, I just want to say just a few quick words. Since being elected 2 years ago, as many as you know, I fought hard against the process of reversion for our city. I wanted to bring to light what was actually happening, what the implications of those things were, and the total impact to our community. Many have told me, I must admit, that they thought I was a lone wolf up here, and I can tell you I did feel that way a couple of times. However, I've come to the realization that I was not a lone wolf. First of all, because God is always by my side. And then secondly, so very, very many of our citizens from all parts of the city called me, encouraged me, supported me, would stop me on the sidewalk and talk to me. And for that, I just want to say thank you very much. It truly meant and means the world to me. So now I'm going to read this resolution, and I just ask that you listen to these words carefully. Resolution expressing council's desire to terminate any and all proceedings related to the current petition for reversion of Martinsville from city to town status. Whereas following comprehensive studies and presentations of information related to the fiscal and operational impact of the city of Martinsville potentially transitioning to town status, Martinsville City Council voted unanimously on December 10th, 2019 to authorize council to proceed with filing appropriate documents to initiate that process. And whereas the city of Martinsville has recognized the vital nature of including its citizens and institutions in matters of significant and irrevocable consequence regarding a change in municipal status. And whereas the city of Martinsville has expended a considerable sum of capital, effort, time, and goodwill in pursuit of municipal reversion. And whereas the city of Martinsville has not duly considered the impact of or desire for municipal reversion on affected parties, including the citizens and institutions of Henry County, with whom the city wishes to engage in good faith endeavors for shared mutual benefit. Whereas since that time and subsequent council elections, a majority of council now believes the reversion process should be stopped. Now therefore be it resolved by the council of the city of Martinsville, assembled this 10th day of January 2023, that the city of Martinsville shall terminate all proceedings regarding the reversion of Martinsville to town status within Henry County. 2, the city attorney and city manager are authorized, with the approval of council, to take all other such actions as may be necessary to accomplish the objectives set forth herein. Where applicable, the city manager shall first convey to council any costs directly associated with any such action, including but not limited to the termination of third-party agreements, and shall not execute such action until council explicitly approves such cost. I would like to make a motion to adopt this resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
There is discussion. The main thing that I received from individuals, and it has been an overwhelming number of people who have contacted me, is where's the transparency and where's the public input? You know, this is on the agenda, but we're not receiving input. And that is one thing that Mrs. Pearson has spoken of many times about transparency and public input. I did receive a letter today, which I would like to read. To my city council members, I write this as a concerned citizen, as for the first time, citizens will not have the opportunity to speak in this process. Think back to November 19th and December 10th of 2019. After reviewing a third-party financial study, council called for a public information session on the 19th for residents to see a presentation on reversion. Then in December, another presentation on reversion was given for the public to understand its impact on Martinsville. After listening to both presentations and citizens during a public hearing, all members of council voted to proceed. Obviously, some people didn't like it. However, there was a plan presented and made public. I write this not to sell you on reversion or ask you to change your mind. All I'm asking of you, Councilmember Pearson, Vice Mayor Rawls, and Mayor Jones, is at least take the same due diligence that council took to start this process before deciding to end it. Here's what I mean. We have a 2019 study from a third-party accounting firm that reported financial stress would lead the city to either raise taxes, cut services, both, or revert. That study was the previous council's source of information when voting on reversion. Where are your sources? Where is the information that counters that study? Is this information backed by third-party financial professionals? How is this being any more transparent or better than previous council when at least they presented information on their plans for the city and held multiple public hearings? I'm not for or against reversion. I'm for what solution allows our city and its services to improve, and to be blunt, whatever solution keeps money in my pocket, your pocket, and everyone's pocket. An agenda item from our electric department is going to outline the need for a rate increase over the next 2 years just to make ends meet. Do you know how much that price tag will cost our residents? If not, is it too much to ask that you all hear from our electric department before ending the process that could save Martinsville millions? Lastly, ending reversion takes every piece of leverage we have for negotiating with Henry County for any type of help or consolidation. Without reversion for the next 5 years, any talks on school consolidation, any talks on consolidation of services, any solution to this financial situation that involves the county will be at their mercy. Even if we get them to the table, they can walk away like they've done before. Reversion isn't happening next month or the month after. I'm no lawyer, but I'm sure there are ways to keep this process in a standstill until citizens have a chance to see new information. Again, I'm not trying to change your mind on reversion. I'm just asking you to delay the vote so that you all can present citizens with information on the next 5 years without reversion. Killing reversion without a public plan does not feel transparent. In fact, how can council members Martin and Lawson make informed decision when they don't know what they would be committing the city and citizens to? I'll end with this. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. I have no doubt you all hope for the best for Martinsville, but I see no evidence of what to expect. Mayor Jones, Vice Mayor Rawls, and Councilmember Pearson, I ask this with the utmost respect for your opinions and plans. Please don't just ask me to have blind faith in where you're taking the city. Instead, do the right way and show citizens information that would make us believe we are headed in the right direction.
One thing I'd like to say, before you do this, again, kind of going along with that letter, before you pull the plug on this, I would ask that you have at least 2 to 3 public comment sessions where the public can actually come in, talk about what they feel, have an informational session to talk about what reversion is, what it isn't. But then at the utmost, wait until we go through at least, especially the 2 freshmen all, at least go through a budget session to see what we are dealing with as a city. Being fiscally strapped. Mayor Jones, you was in the room with the auditor, and that was the same report that was used by a third party. And he said this was the same numbers that used to show that Martinsville is fiscally stressed. So, coming short of begging, please wait. There's nothing that's costing us any money right now. Wait until you go through a budget session before you do this. If you do this right now, you're making Martinsville have to wait 5 more years before we can see this process. That means that's a little over $1 million we have spent during this process that you will throw right down the window. And then in the 5 years to come, and this has been going on since the 70s, talking about reversion. So this isn't something new. The Weldon Cooper Center put out the report, and this is not just indigenous to Martinsville, about how locales, the populations are going down. Martinsville is landlocked. I'm not really worried about annexation, but Martinsville is landlocked. So we can't build out. The only thing we can do is build up. The problem is we don't have the citizenry here yet for that process. Again, with the Weldon Cooper Center report. That's a third party saying this. Please do not make this decision tonight. I know you have made some campaign promises. That doesn't go against your campaign promises that you would stop reversion. All I'm saying is, at least go through at least one budget session to see what the numbers are looking like.
It was the recommendation of the city manager that we at least go through the preliminary of the budget because we have a tough budget. And, you know, you can press pause, and even if the 3-judge panel were to make a decision, there are 21 days after they make that decision, and a decision's going to be made in any time soon. So it's not that it has to be done right now or else you're going to lose something. It's that you could press pause and give people the opportunity to understand, and plus how we're going to work through this budget and the deficit that we know that we have facing us.
Just to add insult to injury, this $3 million that we have, a little like $3 million that we have for ARPA money, we're not going to see that again. When that's spent,
It's gone.
that's gone.
Yep.
So if you look at the budget right now and you see those numbers and think that we have this increase, after that $3 million is gone, if we have a situation, we have pipes right now that are over 70 years old, that could easily eat up $2 to $3 million. Be careful how you make this decision. Please do not do this until at least one budget session. That's not going against promises you made to anybody. One budget session, at least one budget session. You have not went through any yet. At least go through one before you make this decision. You will see the numbers. You will see the numbers. I can't stress it enough. You will see what Martinsville is dealing with.
Well, you go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to go through as many of those as I can. I'm going to try and do it in the most professional manner I possibly can. It's very difficult for me to respond to calls for transparency at this point. I feel like we campaigned. I can't even begin to count the number of media outlets I've been on, explain why I don't think this process is good, what I think that we've done wrong, what I think we needed to have done to get this right. One of the things I'm working on, we met last night to do this, is find ways to improve this process. I will concede half of the problem is the way in which Virginia Code outlines this process, and it makes it so that this is extremely antagonistic for all parties involved. I understand all that. That does not allow me to forgive the way that this was handled with our public. And there may have been a lot of letters sent in suggesting that we do wait. I don't know if Mr. Jones wants to weigh in on how many people have contacted us that were concerned that we might even wait a year to do this, and I will get into that in just a moment. So I got to make this point right off the bat. We just had an election. It was a pretty big deal. You all might remember that. It was pretty unique for Martinsville. Can anybody in good faith say that they saw a single public official attempt to make even a halfway decent case for reversion? And in fact, we had a sitting council member who was vice mayor trying to play both sides of it, backed away from it, was no longer supporting it. So if this was such an overwhelming case and was such a good thing for Martinsville, I would have thought that our public officials would have stood up for it and tried to present the case to us. I'm going to jump to something because I think that this is directly related. Talking about additional information sessions, public hearings. We've done that. We've not listened to our public. The public gets extremely angry when we don't do it. I think for us to even float the idea, people would be calling for us to resign our seats. I truly do think that. That would infuriate our citizenry. At the end of the day, when we're talking about these costs for reversion, we have to be absolutely honest. We're talking about pushing our costs to someone else. We will still have children. We will still have schools. We're still keeping all of our public utilities. So we mentioned the electric rate increase. We're still keeping our electric department. I have no idea what bearing reversion is going to have on that. It's going to be none. Electric costs are awful. We all know that. I don't think that trying to lump in reversion with that issue is doing this issue any justice, and in fact, I think it's actually kind of muddying the argument. Talking about kind of getting rid of our leverage to deal with the county, because we kind of have a noose around their neck with reversion. People who want to form effective partnerships don't negotiate at gunpoint. I do not support that whatsoever. I will never be a yay vote for something like that. And folks in the county have made it clear to us, we say goodbye to certain personalities, friendships might be possible again. And you know what? I'm always going to aim for the possibility of a friendship and a productive relationship. If I go down and my term's not successful, but I made a good faith effort to bring together this small Southern Virginia community, so be it. I can live with that. One of the things that really frustrates me about the reversion discussion, why does everyone assume that if we accept reversion, all is well, all of the problems go away? Why is there this automated faith in reversion that, there's no problem that will ever face Martinsville ever again? In fact, we have a lot of the same problems, and we may even gain more. Think about some of the issues our citizens have talked to us about. We like Sheriff Draper, is something I hear. We like our deputies. We really like our school systems. We feel the programs and the teachers are responsive for our kids. We like how much we fund our schools. There are really good social issues here, why people might want to support reversion or oppose reversion. I don't think, and there is so much evidence out there, I can't even get into all of this, but I can say it is a general consensus that localities are disappointed in the amount of money they save after reversion, but also, in fairness, counties aren't as bummed out about what they had to adopt. This ends up being kind of a status quo, and this is where I come back to the transparency thing. If this is such a wonderful deal, if this is the only path forward for Martinsville, why is this not such an easy case to make? Why is it kind of incumbent upon us to have to disregard everything we've learned, everything we've heard from citizens, and say, okay, well, I guess we'll take it on faith from you guys that this is the right path forward. I've spent an inordinate amount of time going through the city budget. Mr. City Manager, please wave your hands if I'm lying about this, but in the introduction to the 22-23 fiscal budget, there was a remark in there, something along the lines of, we don't have money to give everyone everything they want, but we have money to give everyone most of the things they want. I am really struggling to figure out how we've come from that to this in the span of a year. Either we have got a very long-term systemic issue that we didn't recognize we have, or something horrible has happened in the last year that I can't figure out, and I need to know what that is. And one of the reasons that I think that this process does need to end now is exactly that. I don't think we know enough about this. I don't think I've got enough information to even begin to let this continue. When it comes to that 5-year period, the Virginia Code states that there are basically 2 triggers for that 5-year moratorium. One is that a judge determines that we are not eligible to transition to town status. The other is that I think it has to actually be adjudicated by that judge. We are probably going to terminate it before it even gets to that point. So I don't think that necessarily is going to trigger that 5-year moratorium. It may not. It's going to depend. At any rate, I think we can all recognize we've got so much work to do. It's going to take every bit of 5 years to get to where we need to go. Do we want our schools to consolidate and just throw them up in the air and see where they land, or do we want to try and do some sort of joint plan? Okay. All right. I thought not. So I want to mention this too. So I've kind of built up all these points, and here's how I want to kind of summarize all this. We are not killing reversion. It was killed by the previous government, who didn't make the case, tried to force it through on citizens, did not hear the voices. You all probably remember the Commission on Local Government meeting at NCI. 33 out of 36 speakers spoke against reversion, and these were extremely well-respected people in the community. Their arguments were incredibly rational, and you know what they were saying? They were saying the same things we were. We don't know enough. This is a huge decision. It's irrevocable. Let's take a step back and move. Those voices were not heard back then. I really do believe that we just need to stop this thing, come back together, try and do this the right way. And I look at this just from a process standpoint. If this process started so wrong, could it ever possibly end up right? I simply don't think that it can. I wanted to just talk on a couple other things. I'm really trying to do this in a constructive manner. Martinsville has tremendous revitalization opportunities. We have months-long wait lists for apartments. Pretty much every viable home is off the market. We needed to have been building places to live years ago, and we raised issues like that several years ago with the city. We've got developers who are coming, interested in pretty much every piece of property we've got. We have Southern Virginia is going through a renaissance, and something we have got to do in Martinsville is start thinking 30 years into our future, but also thinking about our region. Where do we fit into this? I'm really getting a little upset with I'm watching Danville's grow and South Boston's grow and all these places grow, and everyone's acting like we can't do this. I don't understand where that mentality comes from. We can absolutely grow. We have the capacity right now in buildings that are unused to add 1,000 units of housing easy. And that's a lot of tax money. And there are a lot of people who want to live here for a good quality of life. It's one of the best places in the world to live. I can tell you that from experience, having lived almost everywhere in the U.S. Last thing with the ARPA money. Moment of silence just to pull myself together. If we wanted to use that money, $2 to $3 million to fix crumbling pipes, why did we spend it on things like baseball fields? Our scale of priority is absolutely absurd when it comes to this stuff. And I think I've probably taken up enough of the time in this discussion.
We had a motion and we had a second. So there no more comments? No more comments?
Call a question. I call a question, which means you vote now.
I got you. All in favor of,
No, it's roll call.
oh, clerk. I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, could you do the roll call?
Councilmember Pearson,
Yes.
Mayor Jones,
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson,
No.
Vice Mayor Rawls,
Yes.
Councilmember Martin.
It's a sad.
So, to announce the resolution of the termination of reversion process passed with a vote of 3-2. Okay, next order here is, we heard comments from Uptown residents and businesses as to the current state of Uptown. We ask for those who come and speak, if you will, state your name, address, and the name of your business. If you are a business owner, I think Vice Mayor Rawls, you had some.
Yeah, so this, to be honest with everybody here, we had an absolutely overwhelming number of people who requested to speak. So what we've done is we've tried to consolidate like concerns so as not to make this sound like this was a particular gripe fest for any one group or against one group. What I'm going to try and do is we've got a handful of statements that we should probably read. We may do that as people come and go. I believe we may have some people in the lobby. We also kind of switch this up is we have some individuals who are specifically involved from a different vantage point in what's going on in Uptown, and we wanted to give them time to speak. And I think it'd be incredibly valuable for the community to hear what they have to say. And you know what? Maybe we'll start with them. So, Mr. Starr, Mrs. Starr, I'm sorry, Mr. Barry. Okay. Would you like to start? And while you walk on up here, you all, if you have not familiarized yourself with the Bulletin's reporting, which was phenomenal in the state of Uptown, we've got some interesting situations kind of going on, and I don't know the proper term. I call it the social services space, whether it's trying to help people find housing solutions, substance abuse treatment, recovery, maybe just general skill building help for life. So we are investigating many different angles of that with about as many different agencies as you can imagine in the state of Virginia. And this is Mr. Barry. We met him at the library. He had a pretty good encounter with one of these groups, and he helped us really get a good understanding of what in the world's going on in Martinsville. So, sir, at your leisure.
Hi, my name is Barry Williams. I'm currently staying at the Walmart Center. I work at Taco Bell.
Can you lean into the microphone?
I work at Taco Bell as a supervisor. My story is I've been going through programs from Roanoke, Danville, seeking help and receiving the same things.
Can we make sure his mic is on? I just want to make sure you're heard.
Our mic is up, but it's recording. It's for the television.
You just have to speak up.
Yeah.
So we're going from Roanoke to Danville, seeking help with all these different programs that were saying they were going to help, but no results never happened. But I guess it's Martinsville, where people say what they say, and they was doing what they said they were going to do, and it's like it's sad because we got a bunch of homeless people out here seeking help, and we can't get it because of these programs. It's like, why do these people have these titles and they not upholding their title of helping these people? They say they want to help. So it's like, I feel like there needs to be a stop to it now, and some just need to be helped for us.
Yeah.
The only people that ever been helping us since this whole situation happened was the peer recovery and the Walmart Center. It wasn't for them, we would have no place to sleep, comfortable places to chill at when we got nowhere to go. Even the library.
You talking about the woman shelter?
Yeah. It's like they coming here with the best thing. At first we didn't want to come, but coming here with the hospitality they showed us and everything they said they were gonna help us, but they helping us with, and progress being done. Like, if anything, them programs that's not helping need to be shut down, and they need to be helped. So they don't want them helping.
Yeah. So how did you make your way to Martinsville to get these programs?
I was dropped off in the library.
You were dropped off at the library. And when you signed up for programs, were you under the expectation that you would at least have a place to stay for a night?
High expectations.
High expectation. Instead, what did you end up having as, let's call it your lodgings?
Multiple programs.
Yeah. How were you told to spend your night when you were unable to get a place to stay?
I had no way to.
Did somebody give you anything to try and outfit a place to stay?
What about the hospital incident? Well, I was told that a hospital incident to help out with for up to 5 days with us staying there. If we go there and say we were suicidal or had some type of detox and we needed to be done, which that program is never accurate. That goes to another program to call the other program back to fix the situation when after they fixed it, shipped us here.
Okay. So, and I'm repeating just so that everyone can hear, because I think they're having trouble hearing. So it was recommended you go to a hospital and state that maybe you're suicidal, and that you would get to stay there for 5 nights.
Yes.
And then that did not work out for you.
No.
And then you were shipped to Martinsville. And then what happened from there? When you tried to make yourself comfortable overnight? Did anybody give you any support there?
A lot. Words of encouragement, and knowing that things are going to change, and with that words of encouragement, things did change.
Yep. And we had read in the paper, someone had suggested, they had given you a tent and suggested you find a nice spot on the Dick and Willie Trail.
Okay.
That was accurate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it was raining that night?
Yeah, hard.
And Star is shy, but she's pregnant?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think the question a lot of us are thinking, if I'm going to think if you're going to send someone outside to sleep, why bother even sending them to Martinsville is a question that I simply cannot answer.
I can't answer it.
You don't have any insight into that? Because someone could have given you a tent in Danville, not that I think that's in any way, shape, or form the right solution. But it's something that we need to examine as a council. Why would something like that occur? And I'm also curious to know, is there some sort of training protocol where someone said that was an acceptable thing to do?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I'm still trying to find out myself.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing your story. Is there anything else that you would want to share for the public?
We all need to come together as people and get justice for everybody that's homeless. Because if it was your family, y'all won't want that for them, so why have for everybody else that's how to go through this trouble?
Yeah. I hear you.
So you are staying at the Winter Woman Shelter, right?
Yes, for currently, yes.
So they are giving you somewhere to stay, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think for you, the issue is what happens if it's above freezing, right?
No.
Yeah, I know.
Well, and I think you were promised other additional services that you did not receive as well, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But those promises were made by a private company that was supposed to be helping you, correct?
Yes.
All right, I don't know if you know this, but you've become like a little bit of a folk hero in Martinsville. I've heard you guys have been well received. And it probably wasn't made clear, but you got here I don't remember the exact day, but was it 1 day or 2 days later, you guys had already landed like 2 or 3 jobs?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the things we think, and you'll hear this a lot from citizens, is can anybody name a place in Martinsville that is not hiring? And you guys went out and hustled. You are going to be most welcome here, I promise. I hope you stay.
I am.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you were someone who requested to speak or had talked with Elsie or me, you just make your way on up. I see Miss Brenda in the back. Miss Brenda, I know how hard you work. You want to come speak so you can get out of here? So a part of this segment is we're going to hear from people who own or run businesses in Uptown and or people who live Uptown and hear some of what they've been seeing over the last several months.
Yes, I'm Brenda Stovall, Brenda's Catering, Uptown Martinsville, 45 East Church Street. What I'm looking at is if we want as a business or business owners with each other, we got to stand by each other. I ran into an incident about a month and a half ago. It was on a Saturday night. Little dust, it wasn't dark yet. I walked outside my back door to empty some oil, grease oil, which is my business part. 2 guys sitting out there, bottles of wine, bottles of liquor, smoking weed. Excuse my French. I asked them politely, could you guys leave? No problem. I said, this is a business. People live next door to us. They ignored it. I asked them one more time. I said, you guys need to get your liquor and leave. Excuse my language, one of the guys, the other guy was standing on my grease vat thing. He was over there urinating right in front of me. No respect, nothing. The other guy told me, said, bitch, call the police. I said, no problem. The cops came. Then I had another business say, why did you call the police? I'm supposed to call the police. That's disrespect as a business. That's disrespect as a woman. But yet and still you got kids, you got people coming up and down. You even just opened up this new apartment building. Who wants to see that? You don't know what kind of condition people may be in. You got Uptown Pinball traveling back and forth with kids. You don't want that around your business because it eliminates your business. I got a big group of older people, whether they older, younger, or whatever. You should have respect in your community to keep your businesses growing. And then people wondering why people don't want to come to Martinsville. You look out for each other. You support each other. You grow together as one, not just to say it's my business or Brenda's Catering or next door. We all one business if you want this town to grow back up like I grew up in.
Thank you. You had mentioned to me, just when I stopped by, you've got an issue with people just kind of walking up and down the street with open containers, bottle of liquor, beers.
They come up and down the street all the time. I mean, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. I can empty my trash out. They got Coke 45 cans of beer, and it's like it's normal. Mm-hmm. It's not normal. And that's not respect to gain your businesses back uptown or anywhere.
Thank you so much, Ms. Brenda. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brenda.
On that note, just talking about some of the beer bottles, cans, etc. Mr. Martin, I know you weren't planning to speak. I just happened to stop by your store. You said you had quite the cleanup crew going with this. And it sounded like almost Public Works needs to cut you a salary.
I appreciate that, but Public Works does a really good job.
I know they do, yes.
I want to tell you, they work hard, and it shows. You look at Uptown, and it shows, and I really appreciate it. What Aaron's referring to about is, since this all started, and I do think we need some sort of service to take care of the people, but it's gotten way out of hand, and what we're picking up is a little unusual for our community. I've been up here 30+ years, and I haven't seen the things that I've been picking up, and it's not bad, but it's in certain spots it is, and I'm hoping that we can all find some kind of resolution to this, because this has to be addressed before it escalates and gets out of control. It really does, and I'd hate that people are being misled and saying that we have a homeless shelter when we do not. I don't want to mislead the people personally, but we've experienced it as with me being a landlord and stuff as well, and my tenants are very good to me. But Brenda said it correctly. We are all a family, whether we like it or not. We're in business together, whether you like it or not, too. You own property, you're affected with the government. We're all in business. That's just the way it works together. I do want to try to find a solution. This really has to be addressed. It's way out of control.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tim.
Hey there.
How are you? I'm Barbara with Perlman's Meat Market, and my problem with Uptown is that it's a terrible situation with parking on Fayette Street. It really is. We've got cars that have stayed parked in front of the dental clinic for like a month at a time, and nobody, and I call the police, or, because if they park in front of the dental clinic and leave, then all the dental clinic people are going to just park in my parking spots. And I go over there and ask them to get them to move, and then, and then they get upset with me. But I really would like to see more patrolling uptown with the parking, because it's ridiculous over there. We've got cars over in that parking lot, don't even have tags on them, and been sitting there, and like these two cars parked out, I know, for a good month. And I called the police department, and they came over there and told me they'd patrol it, and next week, same old problem. People just parking on the side of the road and won't move the cars.
The cars without tags, are they in the Fayette Street parking lot?
Yeah. It's a car. And it's just, and I don't understand it. I really don't. And, and I'd love to have the dental clinic over there, but it looks like if they could, just tell the people that are patients, would you mind parking in the parking lot? Because, I've got 2 lots over there, and I'm supposed to be able to have parking on those 2 lots. And it's just a major problem. It really is.
Yeah.
And then we got this apartment building going down there. Where are them people going to park?
Yep.
And we got the Martinsville Coalition bus over there. And it's taking up 5 spaces in the parking lot. And I'm sure there's more empty lots in the city where they could park. But it is a major problem we have up there.
Okay, I know that the current and previous council have heard tons about that.
Yeah.
The police chief's going to speak a little bit about patrol capacity. The issue we're discussing in Uptown directly impacts his ability to have officers on the street. But we have all talked about solutions to helping people move their vehicles out of spots and spaces uptown.
I'd agree to go back to just paying for parking spots.
That's been raised.
That's one thing that I think would give the city some money in, because it's just crazy.
I don't know if you recognize me as the guy always buying stuff for beef jerky. But
I do. I recognize you.
Okay.
I do.
But I will stop by and talk to you about some of the things we've been talking about.
Okay.
And Chief Fincher is the man. He knows the problem. He recognizes it, and I can give you an update on where everything's at with that.
Well, I'm glad we got Rob.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, this is just for yeah. Is this about the state of Uptown?
No.
Okay.
I'm Corey Williams, CEO of Epic.
Is that will probably get you in, not get you, but public remarks are probably the right time. This is kind of a designated group of citizens who reached out to council. I know we have several others. Some of them I'm going to just try and read statements, and if you really want to speak, please do raise your hand. I know we've got at least 3 people waiting to speak or hear. Was that Mary Reeves?
Yes. Come on up, Mary Reeves.
Clearly, I don't think the pandemic is over. I'm really sorry. Looks like Kimberly Clark could have done a better job making this mask, but I feel safe. No offense to y'all. Okay. This is, I've already given a copy of this to Leon yesterday, and I wanted to, I think this kind of goes, I'm a property owner uptown, right across from where I believe we're scheduled to go. But I'm reading this. Let me catch my breath here. This thing isn't easy. This was written by Alice Ann Blevins. I'm reading it on her behalf and asked that it be entered in the records for tonight.
Is she with, is that Fido's Fine?
Fido's Fine.
Okay.
And I'm supposed to also say, my name's Mary Reeves Brown. I live at 622 Mulberry Road, and I own property in the first, or co-own with my sisters, or their heirs, property in that first block beyond where Larry and Allie is. But now I'm talking about Fido's Finds and Kitty's Collectibles, which is a thrift store SPCA fundraiser that's located at 119 East Church Street. This is from Alice Ann, her words. We moved into this space from 133 East Main in June of 2020. Our store has been very successful, allowing us to support our SPCA. We also feel our lovely store has influenced the other businesses which have moved into our block. Together, we have created an inviting shopping style, which is a major goal for Uptown Martinsville. Things changed when Peer Recovery moved into our old space. We became concerned when there were groups loitering outside the store, and most were men. Fido's is staffed by all women coming in to volunteer, and customers are mostly women coming in to shop. Comments started coming in with customers on how uncomfortable ladies were with these groups on the street. Stories of being asked for money came through the door with customers. One lady came in with her child due to feeling threatened. Comments came from others who wanted to know why people were always hanging around the old store. And on occasion, a Peer Recovery client would come into our shop asking for money. When refused, they did not leave immediately, which made volunteers very uncomfortable. Whether the complaints or concerns were valid does not matter. If people felt uncomfortable, they most likely would not return to our store. We have had several calls expressing that they would not come back until this is resolved. Parking is always a problem on Main Street, but with the large lot between Ronnia's and 133 East Church, customers had easy access to stores in our block. That stopped because it required walking through the peer group. Some of our volunteers used to park in the Ronnia's lot. In today's world, women are obviously more careful, even in Martinsville. I don't know what that means, but anyway. No, I'm going to ask her about that. We are a compassionate community and understand these people need help. The clients of Peer Recovery should also feel comfortable where this help is given. The city of Martinsville should see this as a responsibility of our government or appropriate agency to locate a new space for them. I recall a comment made by Dr. Angeline Godwin, retired president of Patrick and Henry Community College. She said she judged a new community she was considering by the way they treated their homeless and their animals. We have a wonderful SPCA to help the animals and a wonderful store to benefit the shelter. Fido's volunteers are very concerned that all of our hard work and success is being compromised by the activities at 133 Main Street. Signed, Alice Ann Blevins, store chairman, Fido's Fines, and she also was one of the co-founders of the local SPCA. Personally, I don't know. I wish I had an answer. But I think that this is a right first step to have everybody come here together, talk about this without enmity and with compassion, but also understanding that we want to help, but we only have limited resources. I'm upset about the ball field. I have got to admit that, and I didn't agree with the $4.5 million that was originally going to be allocated for Uptown. And I'm even more relieved that wasn't done because, at least the $4.5 million, because it sounds like we might need it, and we're going to need it a lot worse for a lot more things than we thought. So just throw that in there. And nobody wants to throw anybody out, but we don't know where to put people so that we all can get along. Not just yet. I'm hopeful that everyone will coordinate whatever resources you have. I think that I saw a newspaper article yesterday. It was really nice about how they're going to do a census of all of the nonprofits and all of the people and try to count heads and figure out with all the nonprofits who is doing what they're supposed to be doing, are they accountable to, why are they not being accountable to y'all, and maybe some have to get weeded out, I don't know. But I'm concerned. I'm old. I know y'all can look at me and tell that. And that's why I'm going to put my mask up and go away. And I laugh, but I hope I'm getting the point across that everybody sees it. It's been a long time. I don't think she was going to practice for the Mustangs, but today I saw a lady with a baseball bat walking up by the library. I think she's doing it because she's scared of us. And on the other side of the street, you might have somebody walking down there who's scared of her. So, I don't know, but she's got a baseball bat. She's scared of something. And I'm thinking, do I need a baseball bat to go to work? Well, no, we locked the front door. So She probably doesn't have a front door, my guess. Thank y'all for listening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Mary Reeves.
I'm going to read a statement before I forget it. This person was very courteous to reach out, and it was very emphatic about it. And then I know we have a couple other speakers in the back. If you want to make your way up while I read this. So this is a letter from Dean Johnston. Dean Johnston's a pretty well-known gentleman. He's the branch manager at Stiefel Financial Services on Main Street, so in Uptown. He's also the president of Move to Martinsville, so pretty important guy when it comes to making sure that our city has the brand and allure that it needs to grow, so that we don't have to have miserable budget talks, and so that we can actually be the vibrant community we want to be. His comments are, our Uptown location is important to our business model. We seek to have a presence in the Uptown area and the financial district. We have clients that visit our office on a daily basis. Any questions for their safety or that of our employees are problematic, and we will need to consider a move. As the president of Move to Martinsville, it is vitally important to our area that we offer a clean, safe, and vibrant Uptown. The growth of the area is in large measure will be determined by the perceived and actual quality of life we offer to residents and those who are looking to move here. Over recent months, we have experienced a noticeable change in activity in Uptown area and at our office. Unfortunately, it has not been a positive change. There's a population of folks present in Uptown that are not conducive to a good business model, and that certainly that doesn't present an attractive face to the community for folks looking to relocate. Unfortunately, I do not have the answer, but I want you to know we recognize a growing problem and are supportive of the community finding solutions that are good for all, and we're willing to help you where we can. Thank you, Dean Johnson. And we have Julian May.
Good evening. I don't need the mic. My name's Julian May, and I live at 207 Thomas Heights. And I don't have any intention of being brief, so bear with me. First, let me extend my congratulations to our newly elected representatives, Mayor Jones and Vice Mayor Rawls. I look forward to seeing what you are able to accomplish in our home, and it is my hope that you and our entire council are able to work together to tackle the many issues we face in the city. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, I have to tell you I am extraordinarily upset and disappointed with the way that certain critical issues in our community are being handled. It's a laundry list about a mile long, but I want to focus on one that has emerged with recent severity. Lately, my phone is buzzing incessantly, nonstop, with calls and texts more or less asking this question: what in the world is going on in Uptown Martinsville? Many of us have lived and worked in Uptown for quite some time. We know and speak and interact regularly with a long-known and been there a long time population that we have come to see daily who are down on their luck. Most are harmless. Most simply ask you for change here and there, usually to go grab a cup of coffee at Daily Grind. Sometimes they go in there and just sit. They're very nice. They're very pleasant. No big deal. We help where we can. Sorry, it's been a while since I spoke in public. I'm a little anxious. And I'm hot because, and I just want to break for a second, say before I continue, because it must be said, the plight of those who are down on their luck and that are suffering misfortune and tragedy, it's dire. Many do care. We do want people to have better lives, and we want them to be able to find the support where they can. However, for the last couple of months, those of us who live and work in Uptown area have seen a dramatic increase in the number of apparently homeless individuals. It doesn't matter if you're going to the library to read, to Sparky's, to whatever, to the Daily Grind, strolling through Uptown, or walking on the Dick and Willie Trail. It is an irrefutable fact that these numbers are increasing and increasing exponentially. I see it every day. And so do you. My concern was piqued even more during the recent Halloween outing in Uptown. I cannot tell you how many concerned parents came up to me and said that they were not going to be walking toward Main Street because of the increased activity out front of, I'm not going to name the name. Recently, my concern shifted to absolute devastation, then to anger, when one of the residents of Uptown Martinsville told me that due to these increasing numbers of apparent homeless people who they don't recognize and don't know where they came from, they have decided to move away. They are leaving our community. They live I'm not going to say where, off of Church Street. They used to take their child over to Daily Grind all the time. She wanted to come speak, as I'm sure many other people wanted to come speak. But this is a sensitive issue, and many people don't want to come out and say anything about this because they might be viewed as some sort of Dickensian Scrooge who hates homeless people. That's not the issue. The issue is the fact of our community as a whole. If you give me a few minutes, I'll move on. This outrages me to no end, particularly now that we are being told by some that some of these people appear to have been intentionally relocated here. I ask the question again, what is going on in Uptown? I have worked my butt off to market this community as a decent place to live. I often mention that we enjoy a low cost of living, beauty from end to end, and a population of many decent, generous, and welcoming people. This kind of positivity is the sort of thing that draws people to our community. And for the most part, many of these people appear to be satisfied with their choice. But when I hear someone tell me that they are choosing to leave because they do not feel safe where they live and no one seems to care to do anything about it, that sends a shiver down my spine and in fact makes me wonder sometime if I was selling someone a bogus product. How am I to tell people to move to Martinsville with this happening? How is Dean, who helped start the Move to Martinsville nonprofit, going to advertise and market Martinsville as a community that is revitalizing when this is happening in our Uptown? That the destination they have chosen as their home may also be viewed by some as a warehouse for depositing people and apparently charging them by the head? We do not have the resources to handle this in our community. There is also a conceit shared by some in the community that is the responsibility of the community as a whole to do something about the situation. That may be true to some extent, and I'm sure that those who want to help would be willing to do so with open hearts. I'm one of them. But there's also another community of people whose voices are not being heard. The people who actually live in Uptown. The people who work in Uptown. The people who do not have the time or energy to solve this problem, let alone be told by people who do not live in Uptown and frankly don't live in the city that it's theirs to deal with. Why is this now my burden? Your burden, your burden, your burden, your burden. I'm very sorry about what's happened to people in other localities, but why are they appearing to be, some are being brought here? We are told that there's nothing to fear, that at worst you'll only have to see people clustered outside, smoking cigarettes, maybe even suffering the occasional inconvenient panhandling experience. What happens when a Suboxone clinic gets dropped in the middle of Uptown Martinsville? I have no idea what's going to happen except for everywhere I can look in the news that it has happened. We are told that there's nothing. I already said that. And here's another thing. I'm sorry, I'm hot. We're being told that this is nothing to worry about. But I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not willing to bet my safety, my mother's safety, and our security, your security, all of these people's safety and security on the assurances of people who appear to be largely amateurs, novices. I mean, many people claim to be self-trained. I don't know anything about their success rates, their experiences, their plans for the future. I only know what I see and how I feel. And how many organizations are there like this now in Martinsville? Who do they report to? How do we track them, their efforts, their success rates? Everywhere you turn, there's a new one popping up. Some center, some new place to get drugs doled out to them left, right, and center. We are told to research this by going to this government site or that government site, any series of letters. Is there no central institution that can provide me clear and concise information about what is happening, that can also provide oversight and transparency regarding what exactly we're seeing? Recently on Facebook, I saw a Facebook post where an individual associated with one of these Suboxone dispensing organizations commented to an inquiry about hiring. You should take this class and get your whatever series of letters it is after her name. It's easy. It's easy? It's easy to tackle homelessness, substance abuse, mental illness, and despair? Since when? I will be 20 years sober in March, and it is the hardest thing I have ever done and ever will do. This issue cannot be left in the care of academics. It cannot be left in the care of minimally credentialed people and worse, entrepreneurs. Further, regarding the need for a homeless shelter in Uptown, I don't think anyone is opposed to the concept of a homeless shelter in Martinsville. We'll figure it out. But at the risk of sounding like some sort of monster, I have to say that you absolutely cannot let it be in Uptown Martinsville. I can think of nothing more detrimental to our community, one that is finally beginning to revitalize. This area was crushed by NAFTA, devastated, and many of the people who have come into our community do not have the frame of reference to remember any of this. They don't remember what Martinsville was, what happened, and what we're hopefully moving towards. So when they have these conceits that, oh, it's just nothing, it's no big deal, we're just going to plop a Suboxone treatment center here, and one there, and one there, and one there, while people are trying to bring themselves up. Take it from me as a sober person. The only way to bring yourself up is to quit doing drugs and get a job. Anyway. I can think of nothing more detrimental to a community that is finally beginning to revitalize. How is it in the best interest of our community to place such an institution in the heart of a major economic zone? Picture it. I'm touring someone around thinking of relocating here to start a business or bring a huge business. We drive by beautiful buildings, lovely scenic sites. Then we take a stroll through Uptown and they see people wandering around with bags in their hands, apparently not being cared for. They'll be gone in 2 seconds. Again, you may think that I'm sounding like all I care about is business, that all I care about is revitalization. I may even sound a little heartless, but you're dead wrong. When we talk about community, everybody's favorite word, we're talking about everyone in it. And while the plight of some may be something in which we can all help and take a part in solving, efforts to find a solution should not come at the expense of the community as a whole. If Martinsville does not continue to revitalize, continue to increase its tax base and population, we are all doomed. Including, this is one of the most important parts, the many unfortunate people here that need to be helped. They are a part of this complex ecosystem, as are all of us. It will do nothing in the long term to help them. To have our uptown, or the city in general, become some sort of way station or holding pen, a human warehouse where people are moving from one bout of unfortunate circumstance to the next. It will be even more detrimental and actually possibly soul-crushing to the decent and good people of our home if it is proven that people have and might be profiting from this. Are you serious? I urge this council to start cracking down on this nonsense by whatever means you have necessary, whether it be changing zoning ordinances, enforcing codes, calling Richmond, calling your state reps, I don't care. I better start seeing some change, and I better start seeing it soon. Stop entrusting the betterment of these people to academics and get it done. I mean, really. Thanks.
Mayor Jones, I would like to hear from the gentleman from Epic. His company's name has been included in conversation as to allegedly bringing some of these people to Martinsville.
Yes,
So
let's hear that, please.
I would like to hear from him.
Hello, everyone. How you doing?
Mike, please.
Hello, everyone. How you doing?
Hey.
So my name is Corey Williams, and I'm originally CEO of Epic Health from Chatham, Virginia. Spent a lot of time in Martinsville. Was here before when NAFTA. Seen in devastation. My mom and dad worked at Toltex. They lost their jobs to NAFTA. So Martinsville, this area is very dear to me. Within the I can't go into details of the specific case, but I would like to apologize to Mrs. Starr. We're investigating it. We're still currently investigating it. We want to get to the bottom of it. Mrs. Starr and Mr. Barry, because either way, whether housing is within our scope or not, and it's not, based off of licensing, we're trying to and get a residential license and try to help with the homeless issue. But that's a big issue that comes in our facilities every day, because if you're coming in a facility and it's hard to work through any mental health issue or any issues that you might endure through daily life if you don't have a home. So that's a core issue that our team fights every day. In regards to details of how things transpired, I don't know all the facts, but when I get to the bottom of it, I'm committed to fixing it. With how things normally work, individuals come in our offices, they're homeless, we assess them, see what their issues are, what may be causing the homelessness, and then there were calls made. We call and see what we can do to find them housing, who has open beds, what's their pickup points. People have pickup locations, people have drop-off locations. What was promised, I can't really speak to that. But according to what I have been able to uncover in any case is that we try to locate them, and that was a drop point for a bed that was open. And in regards to looking into things, or how we can communicate better, how we can work with city council. I plan to spend a lot of time in Martinsville. I want to meet with city council. I've already started meeting with people today. I want to help. Whatever we can do to help, we don't want to be a hindrance. We have a huge issue for the people in the community. If our locations are not in the area that's going to revitalize Martinsville, guess what? We'll move them. So I don't want to be focused on the revert back and try to figure out, point fingers on what happened, but I want to be part of the solution. Epic wants to be part of the solution. Our team, they've went through a lot. They care about individuals, and I told them, let me shoulder this, but we're gonna have to. We got work to do. So I want to definitely work with the community partners, what we can do to help, and work with you guys. What we can do to help revitalize Martinsville as well, because it means a lot to me.
Mr. Wood, I've seen, I was at DCC, I think you guys had an event that you were opening up in Danville. I don't fully know, I'm assuming QMHP, mental health skill building, day treatment, community support. Who is, for people who don't know who Epic is, who is it?
So Epic is founded in 2015, originally based off of an individual that I had as a family member who was mentally ill due to the stigma. We didn't get him to carry need, so we founded Epic based off of, we want to increase awareness around mental health. Mental health is a real issue. We all go through this every day. So we provide community-based services. We provide mental health skill building, crisis stabilization services, substance abuse services, etc. But they're all community-based. We haven't entered the residential market yet. We see there's a huge need for that, but we're not licensed to do that. So we have to provide, we can link our individuals to housing, but we can't necessarily provide housing services. And the state is looking at different things where they've changed regulation changes and trying to modify it. But we are in the fight with you guys. We have people coming in our offices every day that are homeless. So imagine not being able to help them. So we see a need. I want to wrap my hands around our communication around that, so we don't make promises that we can't keep. So I'm not looking at it. I read the article. I talked to the Martinsville Bulletin. I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of them. Even though I don't agree with everything that was in the article, it was well written, and if it puts the homeless population in the forefront and we able to come together and work on this issue, then so be it. I'll fall on that sword. But that's where we are today. We're not licensed for housing, or regular. We're not. It's not within our criteria.
I have several questions. If no one else has any.
I have it's a two-part question. What other areas is Epic located in the state of Virginia, and have those areas experienced similar situations that we are in Martinsville?
Oh, absolutely. We're in Richmond, Virginia, Danville, Virginia, and Martinsville, Virginia. And it's a significant issue trying to wrap your arms around it. If you got individuals that may be in other services, but having them not being able to locate them, to work with them, and things of that nature. So homelessness at the core is our biggest issue, along with, as the young gentleman that just spoke before me, lack of social workers. There's an 86% shortage in social workers nationwide, and so it's a growing epidemic, and we're in crisis. But we want to be we want to work on and be solution oriented. We don't want to focus on the negativity. We just want to figure out what we can do to work with you guys. I plan to do that moving forward. I haven't been in this community much, but I will be moving forward to try to turn things around.
Thank you.
All right. I have I have a few follow-up questions to that. First, you used the term drop-off point. Is one thing I'm dying to know is the little warming center in Martinsville, which is a church all the way down one of our residential streets, it's the basement of a church. How did that come to your attention as a drop-off point?
So, I don't have all the details, Aaron. I don't want to go into specifics, but that's considered, based off of my initial findings, that's considered a drop-off point for local housing shelters.
Okay, so for folks who are not from Martinsville and may find their way in Martinsville, you said you call around. You might call around into Martinsville?
In this particular incident, our Danville and our Martinsville offices collaborate. So we call and see who has homes available. But not homes, rooms available, beds available. And it was coordinated that they had beds available. And I'll let Bevan allude to this. She's my clinical COO, Chief Operations Officer, so she can allude to the clinical part.
I don't want you to go too far. I got some more.
I won't.
Hi, I just wanted to give you all sort of a rundown of how we do things. Someone comes in for an assessment, we assess them fully for any services that they might qualify for. For the services they qualify for, we let them know what they do and what they do not.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Qualify for in need or just qualify for?
In need.
Okay.
In need. So basically mental and behavioral health. So the services that we offer, which ones they meet criteria for and which ones they do not.
So
and sometimes they're asking for services that we might not be able to provide or that they do not meet state government regulations for. So
okay, so if we had, let's say someone who was upset with Epic Health, call Medicaid with us sitting next to them and give us a printout of things they were billed for that they didn't know they were getting and did not need, that would be a surprise to you?
It would be, because
Okay.
we let them know what services they're in
Good to know.
and what they do and do not qualify for.
Okay.
But if we come across individuals who are homeless, and we often do, what we try to do is find them or link them immediately to what we refer to as emergency housing. That might be the local shelter. It might be churches or community resources who provide vouchers for hotels, things like that. So that is what we do. Well, our Danville and Martinsville office work very close together because we offer the same services. Sometimes, unfortunately, what we can give them in Danville, individuals don't necessarily want or agree with, because our homeless shelter in Danville will sometimes take certain people, but they won't take certain others or significant others or spouses or that sort of thing. So if they're faced with that, of course, they have the right to refuse to stay there. So we do not want, we try to help them to not be out in the elements. So we really and truly exhaust everything that we possibly can. So if that means calling our sister office in Martinsville, who offers the same services that we do, then that's what we do. And they do the same for us. So if we have something that we can provide for them that they're unable to provide at that time, then we will provide that. We work hand in hand together. So if something is not available in Danville and it is available in Martinsville, our Martinsville staff is very aware of what the resources are in the area, and they help us. We call those resources and we say, this is our situation. What can you do to help us? Is there anything that you can do? They give us their instructions on exactly what we have to do in order to utilize their services. We follow those instructions to the T. Then we let the citizens know that we will be connecting with them the next morning to provide the services that we have offered them.
While I have both of you, I'll go. Did you want to ask? No, go ahead. I have a follow-up on that because you might be better able to speak to this.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about your history of audits or investigations and any corrective action plans that came from that? And a total number of investigations or audits would be good to know for scope purposes.
So we are audited whenever we are up for relicensing. And as far as I know, you're going to have to answer that question.
Yeah, we can. I don't know what we can discuss, but in regards to audits, we're audited annually. Whenever there's an occurrence, there's an audit going on now. Mr. Rawls started it yesterday due to this issue. So whenever they might occur, and then they're regularly, monthly, whenever. But absolutely, definitely annually.
Okay. Would you think you have more or less than 10 corrective action plans over the last few years?
Less.
Okay. Okay, I think the rest of my questions are for Mr. Williams. A couple basic things for community perspective. So you've heard some of the citizens speak about concerns in this space. One thing I'm curious about, is your organization nonprofit or for-profit?
For-profit.
For-profit.
Yes, sir.
And would you refer to yourself as a serial entrepreneur?
Yes.
Okay. And if you would help me, I'd like to know the background of individuals, particularly who are participating in this space. So I think you worked previously at Goodyear, perhaps an electrician or somewhere in the electrical department?
Is this
No.
a Senate hearing?
No.
Investigation? Like, what's going on right now?
I'm trying to figure out who's participating in this space in our city.
So I graduated from Avery University, worked in Akron, Ohio, as supply chain.
What I'm trying to figure out is,
You asked me about my. Can I speak?
Yeah,
to my,
I want to know the transition to healthcare and services in that space.
I'm getting there. That's part of the story. Graduated from Avery, went to Goodyear Tire, worked in the supply chain in Akron, Ohio. Transferred to Danville Plant as business center manager, SOM supervisor. Went to Troxler Electronics as director of operations in Troxler. So I've worked in the corporate 500 until I found my true passion. Identified my true passion, and that's helping people. So that's what sparked it. My uncle having a mental illness, so I started to research behavioral health in 2012. We opened in 2015. We set up a structured corporately. We have a separate compliance department, separate HR department, have a true passion for helping people. That's what started.
Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because my cousin has Sean Down's mentoring service in Danville. You have to be certified for the state to have these services, correct?
Absolutely. Yes, you have to go through a strenuous process.
You're monitored by the state. Your paperwork is turned in through Medicaid. So I'm assuming if the state has said that he is qualified to do this job, I don't understand where these questions are coming from, and I think it's kind of disrespectful.
They're very basic fact-finding questions. They normally happen in private, but you so happen to grace us tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to add that we are also CARF accredited, which is an international accreditation, and we have to go through an extremely difficult process to get this accreditation. The first time we went through it, we got our 3-year accreditation, which is unheard of. We just went through it again last year and got another renewal of 3 years, which is very unheard of.
Excellent.
And if I could add anything, I understand your frustration, Mr. Ross.
I'm not frustrated in the slightest.
We're in a fight together. So I'm willing to answer any questions you have, and then I also want to work through solutions to how we can help things in Martinsville and revitalize this area as well.
Okay.
I think it would be a little bit more respectful to ask Epic to come back and when go into these kind of questions, to let them present who they are. PowerPoint presentation, they can go into what they can go into about how they're certified, their audits, all of this, to give them time to actually have a presentation to do this, as opposed to trying to catch them off guard, even though he's already answered these questions, and go into what his business is in a respectful way.
I appreciate the opportunity to have you on the record. I appreciate your input, and I will decline it. So I've got one more follow-up question for you. We had some reports of citizens, and there are at least 4 that we've got, who had group sessions who were scheduled for both Thursday and Friday. We had numerous individuals go to both of your buildings throughout the day on Thursday and Friday, and those buildings were closed.
They were not.
So
okay.
we only have one building in operation in this area.
That's on Ellsworth Street. We were there.
Yes, and the other building we're not licensed to. We purchased the building. We're doing, there's work, but we got to get a certificate of occupancy. We got to meet with you guys. There's a lot of things that got to go into place. So that building is not operable.
Just I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, the Ellsworth property, they didn't leave until after 5. That's been confirmed. And then on Friday, they were there until 3.
Which is when we closed.
Okay, so you were in the. Which thing was not accurate from your perspective? That there were group sessions, or that you were not there,
Well,
or
that's
both?
two different things.
Yeah.
So it is incorrect that our workers were not there. They actually saw the reporters taking pictures of the building, and they were standing at the window when the pictures were taken. No one ever came to the door, pulled it, tried to pull it open, knock on it, none of it.
So were the individuals we spoke with who had the sessions,
Groups were held.
they were held?
They were held.
The group actually, no, the group was canceled that Friday because
the
it was
Friday,
due to
so
the
it was
holiday, but
Thursday.
it was communicated that it would be
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, we don't want to rebuke any of the claims, guys. I don't want to add more to the negative. The team has been through enough. What I want to do is, how can we work together? We've brought the issue of homelessness to the area. Key people are talking about it. It's a huge problem for you guys. It's a huge problem for us. Let's work together.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sorry.
yeah, I know I've monopolized a lot of this time. I appreciate the clarity. I know historically this is a body that likes to do this when someone comes up and you hear this. You've heard some of the citizen concerns. You've heard probably about 1/30th of what's out there. If I'm not asking you these questions, I'm not fulfilling my obligation to people.
I totally understand.
That's
that,
the only
totally
place it
respect
comes
that.
from. Yep.
And that's why
I actually didn't know you would be here. There's no like ambush situation here or something.
No, I called in and I called in today, and she said she would be able to add me to that. So I didn't understand the process. So that's why when you said open comment and we talked about Mrs. Starr and Mr. Barry, which I want to personally apologize to them, that's when I thought that it was open comment. I apologize for that.
No worries. All right. Thank you guys so much.
I think, Mr. Williams, you coming here today is a sign of good faith, that you understand and you recognize that there were some things that were handled poorly. The learning curve there is whenever we learn something from a negative, we can move forward positive. And there are resources in this community, Keith over at Peer Recovery. We've got a lot of people in this area who care, and we want things to work well. So we have the hiccup, bad experience, learning lesson, but we have to move forward.
Absolutely.
And I think you're willing to do that.
I just have one quick.
Just want to say, because you said something, I want to make sure that's cleared up. You didn't bring homelessness here. Homelessness was here as long as we've had the peer recovery, or the Winter Woman Shelter, for 7 years. Because homelessness has been an issue for a long time. Certain people want to turn a blind eye to it, but it is here, and it has been here, and you guys did not bring that here.
No, that was the only incident that I know, and I don't know, and we still haven't got all the facts around. Did we make the connection with the Warmer Center before the driver left and all that? That stuff is we're still looking into. But at the end of the day, guys, I just want to work together, and what Epic can do to improve. I look at every opportunity as an improvement opportunity. Epic is not my only venture. I have other ventures that I'm involved in as well, but this is my priority, and rehabilitating and working with you guys in the community is going to be one of my priorities as well, immediate priorities. And hey, if the article and everything had to bring to light to bring some things to my attention to make things better for the community, then oh well, so be it.
I just have one quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
So we know we're definitely seeing an increase in homeless individuals not from Martinsville, so from outside of our area, from New Jersey, Roanoke, various areas. How many individuals have you bussed here other than the ones that just happened?
No, that's the only incident. And the only reason why, and I'm not even going to consider that an incident because I don't have all the facts yet, but there was a connection made. We contacted beds. Danville and Martinsville worked together, and there was beds available for the individual.
I was just wondering if there were others that
I have no recollection of that whatsoever. It makes no sense to me to do that. To bring one problem to another location and to add the same problem. That makes zero sense.
I think we're just trying to get to the root of the issue of where these individuals, how these individuals are coming to a city that is clearly not equipped to handle such a population. So,
We understand, and we hear that in all of our locations.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think we have one more speaker who's been waiting so diligently. I think there's only one more. Is there anybody else who's been waiting? One other, okay.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Barbara Seymour. I've been a part of the Martinsville community for 2 years, having relocated here with my husband from Central Florida in 2021. We live in Uptown on Mulberry Road. I had 3 job offers on the table, and we chose Martinsville. We could have stayed in Central Florida. I could have gone to Charlotte, and I had a job offer in Martinsville. And we chose Martinsville for its charm, the people that are here, and the absolute potential for growth and revitalization in this area. By way of background, I'm a registered nurse. I've earned my doctoral degree in nursing in 2019. I've worked as a chief nursing officer for the past 10 years, including 18 months at our local hospital, and most recently have moved into the consulting space to help other nurse executives lead their teams to care for the communities that they serve. As a disclaimer, my views expressed this evening before the City Council are mine alone as a community member and should not be considered the position of my current or my previous employers. It has come to the attention of this council, obviously, and our community that we have a growing population of individuals in need of services to alleviate homelessness. The evidence of this plight can be found everywhere, from the streets of Uptown to the hospital emergency room, which is a huge problem, by the way, and beyond. And while the source of the influx of the homeless individuals can be investigated or deliberated by opposing parties, one truth remains: we have not solved the problem. Homelessness has a ripple effect for communities. Social drivers of health are intertwined, and where there is homelessness, there is poverty, hunger, lack of education, addiction, and dilution of services. Individuals and communities with increases in these social drivers of health are at disproportionate risk for illness and health inequity. This is demonstrated in measures of health at local, state, and national levels and creates a vicious cycle for generations. Any organization in the business of serving individuals and their social and health needs must be charged with planning for their community at large, transparency in their operations, and developing measures of success. So I was very thrilled to hear y'all talk about transparency out of the gate, because this is an issue that requires absolute transparency. And I'm thrilled to hear the gentleman from Epic talk about the need for measures of success and how we share those, because it's absolutely crucial. As a nurse executive, I was obligated to these same mandates. We have to develop a community health needs assessment. I had to share qualitative and quantitative data with my community regarding my operations, and I had to move to improve key performance indicators. When I see evidence of homelessness in our community, when I search the who and the what of these organizations that are supposedly helping our homeless population, when I look for those measures of improvement, I find nothing. How does the community know it's being served? How do individuals, like the gentleman that spoke first, know that he's being served? How do we know we are moving from the business of sick care, which has been described this evening, to the business of health care? Our measures of success should not be how much we spend in attempting to reduce homelessness. The real goal should be to reduce that spend because we have solved the problem. The mission should be to create a community where these services simply are not required. It's a horrible business model, sir, to work your way out of business, but it's the perfect model to improve the health and wellness of the individuals that you serve and for Martinsville. Please make no mistake, this is not an indictment on the homeless. I am the mother of a child who has suffered from homelessness and heroin addiction. And I see each person as someone's child, someone's partner, someone's sibling. Rather, this is a call to action. I am asking this council and other community members to hold these organizations accountable to serving the community as they have been charged, and to strongly encourage a planful, transparent, and outcomes-oriented approach to serving our homeless citizens, because their wellness is the wellness of Martinsville. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Not yet. All right, we have one more And I just want to follow up on this before it falls out of my brain. There's quite a lot of research out there about the business model Ms. Seymour just mentioned. If you'd like to see it, please text me, Facebook me, email me. It goes into the details of this model by actually helping your patients, you put yourself out of business. And the incentives are so perverse, I think it's worth everybody knowing how it works. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Bobby Price. I own American Patriot Auctions on 101 East Main Street in Martinsville. I am in the thick of this homeless situation. I consider myself an extremely compassionate person. I've helped an awful lot of people here. I'm not from the Martinsville area. You speak about housing. I actually landed a one owner 5,000 square foot house here for $120,000 and I relocated to Martinsville. I've never been here in my life. I've come here, I've met some incredible people, I've networked with some incredible people. A lot of people have very similar goals and things that we really want to achieve here. I've expanded my business to need a storefront at this point. It was supposed to be an auction company, and the community has essentially made me open a store. The need is here for what I can provide, which is, I'm not here to plug my business, but I sell big box merchandise at liquidation prices, 50 to 90% off. It allows me, my profit margins allow me to help anybody I want to. I've had, excuse me, before Christmas, I swear, I'm a disabled Navy veteran, man, and this is terrifying standing here.
We all know. Yeah.
What this has done for us is before Christmas, I was able to lower my price points for several charities. We've touched thousands of lives in just a couple of months. We are already looking at scaling exponentially. I'm looking at a building 16 times the size my building is right now to move into because of the need. What is hindering my growth is not just a homeless situation. When I moved in a year ago to my building, we had 4 homeless people. One was an older gentleman that looked like Santa Claus. We had one black guy on a yellow bicycle, nice as could be, absolutely helpful. You know, if I can be of any assistance, you let me know, we'll be around. They hung out down the depot, didn't cause any problems. Do you know the homeless actually decorated the tree next to the depot gazebo over the holidays? What we see now is not just a homeless situation. We have violent people coming through these doors and coming through these streets. When I first moved in, I used to like to, and this is probably weird, I'm weird, whatever. I would stand in the middle of my street, in the middle of East Main Street, obviously with no traffic coming, and just take it in. This city is amazing. The power and the magic that comes off of the buildings is amazing. The people and the smiles and the hellos, and we have people walking by my store every day just on their lunch break. They come in my store, I get a new truck maybe once or twice a month. They've seen all the same stuff that I have for sale, and they still stop in and say, hey, you know, and see what we have. But that's dwindling. As this new population, we can call it, I guess, comes in, our supporters are going out. And, you know, there was an instance that we have 2 gentlemen that are part of this PRC, whatever, goes to meetings or whatever, but then once they leave the meeting, they're walking by my store with a bottle in a paper bag. These 2 guys will have violent conversations with themselves. If they walk down the side of my building on 4th Street, it sounds like a whole riot is happening down there. Like, and it's one person talking to himself. This one particular person accosted a 7-year-old little girl in front of my building just to see if he could scare her. Got in her face, roar. Just like stinky, no teeth, just vile human being. got in a 7-year-old little girl's face. That 7-year-old's my daughter. So this is not just a homeless situation. This is a mental health situation as well. And if they're being brought here, and forgive me, sir, but if our safety for profit is at jeopardy, I don't want to be here. I will move. My landlord is right there. I will move tomorrow. We have several people that come in. You guys are spending millions of dollars to extend the Dick and Willie Passage. Is that the housing that you're bringing to Martinsville? That's what we're using for housing now, the Dick and Willie Passage. Because I have a customer that's completely amazing. She has now started carrying a firearm because she uses the Dick and Willie Passage for exercise and gets stopped on a regular basis. This isn't fair to our people, and for the first few months that I rented my building, we had those 4 homeless people, and that's manageable. You may have had a homeless, problem in the past. It's not on the scale it is right now. We have new faces every single day. Where they're coming from, who knows? I'm sure it's easy enough to follow the money. But we have a legit issue that's growing, and you're going to shut Uptown down again if it doesn't get rectified. These guys are coming from, and it's not just guys, I'm referring to everybody that is in the situation. They're coming from larger cities. They're very aggressive in their panhandling, in how they speak to you, in social distance. They it's not comfortable. They are, some of them from the Peer Recovery Center that have come in for meetings and whatnot, have come into my store, spent money, and it actually gave a few of them a real boost, because one female in particular, she had never been able to, while she's been down with the sickness, hasn't been able to provide birthday gifts or Christmas gifts for their child. And I gave them the opportunity with lowering price points and whatnot, as I saw fit. On the other hand, I have people coming in, just burning up time waiting for their meetings and stealing things. Socks, underwear. I would have given it to you. But this is how Uptown is changing. Again, Uptown was changing for the good in the first 4 months that I was there, and now we're sliding. Our regular, this is brutal.
Doing great.
Our regular people that walk the loop, that's one of Tim's favorite sayings, walk the loop. See we had the Halloween thing, doubled my business. We had the Winterfest thing, tripled my business. We have an incredible Chamber of Commerce here working their tails off to help our businesses. We have several entities on Facebook pushing all of our businesses for free. And we have, so many people that work Uptown that walk the loop, and they have to be careful how they walk because they don't want to get accosted by these people waiting for meetings or whatever. Some of them are legitimately are walking the streets looking like zombies. And shopping carts, bicycles, like what used to be an awesome magical situation. I'm the last car to leave Main Street every day, with the exception of the delivery drivers for the bulletin. And what used to be just a magical situation, walking out and just taking in the city decorations and the power of the buildings and the concrete and the marble and all that has turned into looking around all the corners with my weapon in my hand, waiting for something bad to happen. And that's not what I'm here for. I want to make a difference, and I hope that we can work together at some point or somehow or something. But somebody's bringing these kids here, and we have to stop that.
May I ask you one follow-up? And Councilmember Pearson was teeing it up. You just used the word kids. One of the things that has been unbelievably, immensely frustrating to me is the stories that I'm hearing from certain people in this space. And first, I want to relate to your comment. I started carrying a firearm again. I had to draw it twice, and then I started carrying mace because I was worried.
Yep.
What happened? First of all, no one wants to go in that headspace, but you start worrying. What if it's this? When am I going to make a mistake? When am I going to hurt somebody who didn't know what they were doing to me?
Yep.
You mentioned kids. One of the things that has been immensely frustrating to me is I try to and have conducted many interviews with people working in the space to be met with the following. All the people we work with are long-term Martinsville, Henry County residents, and they're all older, or mostly all older, have health issues. I mean, I've got eyeballs. You have eyeballs. We have eyeballs. You have a business on Main Street. Have you noticed this to be between the ages of 20 and 40 for the most part?
Yes.
And these are not people recognizable. Hey, I moved to Martinsville in 2012, and I know a lot of people makes that I'm a transplant in their minds. When I moved here from Phoenix, I was a celebrity because of that. I was a young guy who moved to Martinsville, and people couldn't believe there was this new guy here. People notice that stuff. They know when they walk up and down the streets and see 30 people congregated that you don't recognize a single one of them, something is up.
New faces every day.
Yeah, every day.
Single day.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
They come around my corner. They come up from Depot and come around my corner, walk right past my window every day.
Thank you.
If I could, I don't want to just bring a problem to a table without offering a bit of a solution. I spent 10 years on the Outer Banks, and one thing that they do in the off season is what's called a Room at the Inn program. And it's several churches will volunteer spaces for homeless to spend the night, and they take turns opening their doors, for meals and lodging and whatnot. We have a church on every corner here, so it shouldn't be too hard to find a situation like that to handle the homeless problem that we have. But it's not going to fix it if it keeps. If you keep dumping water in the boat, at some point you have to plug the hole.
Yep.
So. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go home and cry now.
I think we're going to have, well, Mr. Mayor, it's your meeting, but one more?
Yeah, we'll get this.
Can I speak something about
Just come to the podium.
My name's Mary Kay Berger. I'm chairperson for Peer Recovery Connection as a volunteer. I've also been a nurse for 49 years and a nurse practitioner doing psychiatry at Piedmont Community Services before I retired. And I don't know how many people know, but for a long time, our homeless people were sent to Roanoke. And I don't know how many people in the community know that, but we routinely brought people to Roanoke that were homeless. So yeah, we have not seen homelessness like this because everyone went to Roanoke. We also would have people that say, oh, well, my family lives in Portsmouth, my family lives here, my family lives there. So there were bus tickets bought for people to go to those areas. So that's a big part of that, because people will show up, they'll come here with a girlfriend, a boyfriend, this or that, and they'll end up here, they break up from this relationship, and they're here. And then they have nowhere to live. So that's part of the issue. The other thing is, I was at a meeting at the new college during the summer. It's probably August maybe, and there was a gentleman there for the legal aid, and he mentioned then that as of the end of June, that the way that landlords were doing the evictions, it was changing, and he mentioned to people then that as of probably September, October, we were going to see a huge increase in homelessness, and mentioned that as a big issue for here. So now it's like this is happening. Now, Peer Recovery Connection is a recovery program for substance abuse. So we have had this all these people showing up. Keith Owens is our executive director. He is not about homelessness. Now, he helped to drive some people to the homeless shelter, because there's a large portion of people that are homeless that have substance issues. So this is a way he could connect and try to get some of those people into our program. But we can't have just people that are homeless in there. Now, several of us were in there this morning and really said, okay, this is not happening. If you're not here for recovery, you can't stay. So you may see a lot more people hanging around uptown because they can't be at our program. We're at a risk of losing our funding. So we've got to be focused on that. Now we're also, Tim Martin's our landlord. He's been very helpful to get us a place and worked with us. So we had a location. And, you know, but we need to move that location. We've had a struggle finding any place to go to. And after the article in the paper, we had people that say, no, we don't want to work with you. So that really affected us to even get a recovery program. Recovery is about getting clean, whatever that substance is, and then becoming part of society. You know, getting a job and working. It's not about sitting back and enabling people to sit down and not do things. If somebody's walking down the street with a bottle, open container, they weren't at our program. We don't let people come in there that are using. So we address those things. So those are not people that are in our program, in meetings. So they were not allowed to come in there. So I want to make that clear, that they were not at our program. So those are kind of things. Now we have had some people that were disruptive. Those people are banned from our program. And we have had some of those people. And they're around. And the seriously mentally ill people we see, they can't be made to take medication. We don't deal with mental health issues. We have some people that have co-occurring issues, mental health and substances, but people that are seriously mentally ill, unless they're violent, and when I went into the jail seeing patients, our jails, unfortunately, are like an annex to mental health. So that's where we see so many people that have mental health issues. Instead of being in state hospitals, they shut those down, and now the poor jails are having to deal with all the mental health issues. So that's why you see people walking on the streets, and they may be talking to themselves, and they may be scaring people, but you can't make them take medication. So until they get to be a problem, they get to be, you know, disruptive, that's when they end up in jail. So anyway, I just want to make sure people know that our program is not about homelessness. So
I have at least a couple follow-up questions. Would anybody else like to jump in? My first thing is I've heard some of those rationale, those arguments before about the eviction moratorium, jails, et cetera. So of course we went and talked to people like the sheriff to try and validate if that was true or not, and lo and behold, it was not. And one of the reasons that we can find out that the eviction moratorium did not impact as many people as we've seen here, I'm not saying it didn't impact any, there's no nexus to Martinsville with a lot of these people. None. Zero. So
I'm just going by what the legal aid guy said, because he told me that, and that was in August, that they had put somebody in Henry County's court, whoever does the evictions. They had placed somebody there one day a week that they do evictions, and they were getting ready to put somebody in the city. So I don't know about evictions. I don't do that. I'm just going on what he told us at that meeting.
I completely understand that, and that's part of why I bring this up, is not to be confrontational. Is I'm trying to make sure everyone's informed about the issue.
Right.
So I have to ask this, and at some point, someone in the media is almost certainly going to come and ask you, if you don't service some of these people, and you know some of these people we've interviewed, and it's their first day there, how do they find themselves at your building at 8 a.m. in the morning on their first day?
Well, we don't open till 9.
Well, they're there about 4 some days.
And I know that, like I said, we had helped drive some people. And so, you know, they would come back, their drop-off is at the library. So, and we were helping to drive because we knew a large portion of those people had substance issues. So I'm sure the other ones, some of the other people going, oh, well, we can go there and get this or get that. So that's where part of the issue was coming.
Okay.
And, it's, when you're looking at somebody that doesn't have anywhere to go and it's 35, 40 degrees, it's hard to kick somebody out.
Yeah.
But we're having to do that. And we're having to do that because that's where our money is coming from the state. We don't bill. We don't, we're a nonprofit. We don't bill anything. Everything that comes in, we utilize our funds that we get from, state funding. And that's why, we're not part of doing stuff for homeless people. But, we try to interact and try to see if somebody does have a substance issue and try to work with that, because some people, it takes a little while for them to really address the issue. So
I understand. So follow up, you kind of addressed it, but I think it's worth just asking point blank. So like Ms. Brenda spoke earlier, other businesses in Uptown have made this statement to me virtually verbatim. No other business has this loitering issue. Why does that group have it?
because a lot of people hang out on the streets, and some of it should definitely not be there. That's why we're looking to move to a different location.
Okay.
Because that's, and the problem I've seen when I've been there is trying to get people to move. Well, this sidewalk, this is our, this is, you can't do with anything on the sidewalk. And some of them I'd said, you need to go somewhere else. You need to, if you're just going to hang out, please go somewhere else and do that. And, and I saw the lady with the baseball bat today, too.
Mm-hmm.
It disturbed me.
Was it?
Cannot bring in weapons of any kind, things like that. There's no alcohol around. And I'll be honest with you, if I see somebody using out in the parking lot, have drugs, something like that, I'd call the police.
Yeah, we've got reports of that, too. And a follow-up question, this is my own sheer curiosity here. Of course, the question just falls out of my brain. But it was going to be a really good question for me to help understand, like, what... Obviously, I've spoken way too much tonight. But, hey, I have your number, so I can call you.
Do.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, I remembered it. You guys were there for quite a long time before there was ever any report of any problem. Like a year, at least.
Right.
What, initially, I think the deal was, so I heard, that was kind of like an office situation for you guys. What kind of happened over the last 6 months or so where that changed so dramatically?
I think it's gotten worse since it's gotten colder. I think
Weather?
it's probably gotten
Well, this definitely
worse,
started in like June.
September?
This started quite a long time ago, definitely June-ish.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. We've been in that location a year and a half, maybe?
Yeah.
I think we moved in May or June of, you remember?
But you actually started in March.
Right. And we were working on putting the wall in and all that stuff, and of 21? Anyway.
Cool. Thank you so much.
All right. But we are looking to, we've got a location we're working on, so hopefully we'll be out soon. So,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I know this is a hot topic, and we had a whole lot of people who wanted to speak on it. We've heard a lot of them already. This is an issue that's going to be continuing to go, so we will provide another opportunity for it to be spoken on another time. But for the area of moving into the night, we're gonna move on.
Mayor Jones, if I may, I'd like to make a motion, please, in regards to this. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you to everyone for speaking up, sharing your perspectives, and giving our community insight as to the current state of Uptown. I think it's important for our entire community to hear this from all different demographics, from different people, from everyone from business owners to just concerned citizens. So I just want to say thank you. So I'm in addition to this council listening, truly listening to you, I think this new council truly does want to seek solutions and be more proactive. So in doing so, I'm going to make a motion to establish an emergency housing and community support commission to not only address the housing issue, but the overall packaging of community support.
So motion, is there a second?
Second.
So do we have guidelines for this?
Yes.
I'll kick this off if that's okay. So the nature of this is this formed very rapidly. It's an issue that frankly evolved very rapidly, and a lot of people, I can't state the last time I didn't get 5 calls, 6 calls a day just about this. Sometimes I get a lot more. Last week I received a call from someone who had literally a nuclear meltdown on the telephone about witnessing a bus drop-off of quite a large number of people. So we recognize that, and for full context, I have lived in virtually every city in the U.S., and I spent a long time in Denver. I have watched a city die because of this problem where people did not act. Make no mistake, that is coming our way if we do not act. The purpose of this commission is to engage professionals who have some knowledge of this space to help advise council as to what in the world is actually going on in our city. So to me, one of the most important goals of this commission is to build it up with individuals who aren't too close to any particular organization and who, if I'm being absolutely forthright, that I feel like can be trusted in what's become an increasingly difficult to trust industry. We've moved as fast as we can to get this going. One of the things that we've talked about is, look, if we wait, every single day we wait is a night someone is out on the streets cold. I don't think this is an issue that we can wait on. This is not a commission in the sense some of you all might be thinking that's going to sit around and philosophize about homelessness. This group is going to go around and look at what's failing in the fabric of these services, what we're doing that isn't working. We heard a little bit of that tonight. I know that the model, I've spent a tremendous amount of time in healthcare consulting. Services, services, services. We're offering X number of services, X hours of services, X number of caseworkers doing X number of services. And I know they're doing good work. We met with some of them earlier tonight. We have got to shift the focus to actual outcomes. What is the impact of these things? What are the things we should be doing that will actually make a difference in this community? I think we're going to be able to move really quickly to actually do some of that. Work between that commission that we establish and our council is going to begin immediately, right away. So all the recommendations that we expect to hear from that council should be completely oriented around the impact they're going to have. My goal is, in a lot of cases, we either find people help to get back to their families or communities that have the best resources for them, or we figure out what we're lacking in Martinsville for our own people to get that stood up here in our own area. At the end of the day, the one thing I think we all agree we cannot have is a warming center that's there part of the time and is being used, I guess, as a drop-off point for some organizations, but then when people leave the warming center, there's nowhere for them to go during the day, and they just kind of stream out of a van with nowhere to go. And that is not solving this issue for anybody. In fact, it's making it a lot worse. And in some of the cases of the individuals we spoke with, they were being brought here without the knowledge of really where they were going, what they were expected to get. And so these are folks that in some cases really came out seeking very little help. They needed a couple days of housing, maybe a little bit of help with transportation, getting a job. They ended up in an absolute hellhole of a place where they knew nobody, nothing, no prospects, no transport, no place to put their stuff. That is the thing that this commission, I'm hoping, is going to help us solve.
Okay, do we have structure, or is this something that we're going to have a proposal on as we do other boards and commissions, and we can have it on the agenda next meeting? Or what is the structure here?
I'd like our motion to be entertained for tonight. The structure is we've already had infinite number of individuals reach out to us to want to participate on this thing, and my hope to actually nominate them tonight and appoint them tonight so we can get this thing going. We can wait 2 weeks, but just remember what the outcome is going to be. You have people on the streets for 2 weeks with no help.
But aren't there people out there who would want to participate that we're not giving them the opportunity if we rush through this?
Very likely.
But I think we would still open that invitation if they would like to participate.
We have structure on here as to how many people are going to serve on this commission.
5, yes.
And you say 5, and how would they be selected?
They'll be nominated by council.
So would they apply as we do other?
No.
Oh, dictatorship, okay.
Yep. Council establishes boards and commissions as they see fit. That's the Virginia charter, our city charter.
Yes.
And
We
I'd
do,
like to
and we
move.
normally have public we have noticed that we have this where people can express their interest in serving.
Yep, we understand that. Part of the issue is we've engaged with a lot of people in this space, and to be quite frank, have been met with evasion, untruths, uncooperative behavior, and so I feel confident with the people I'm going to nominate. I don't know about you, Tammy.
Yes, but I am open to increasing the number if anyone else is interested, but I'd really look to these nominees to complete the framework that you were discussing.
We're going to get to nominations in a moment.
To talk about public
Transparency and Ms. Pearson, you know, yeah, Ms. Pearson, you're the poster child for claiming for transparency and public input, but where is there? There isn't any.
This is an emerging problem as we
It is an emerging problem, and it's an emergency.
And I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I think it's a good thing, but I also think that we should have the opportunity for citizens to reach out to us to say, I have something that I can contribute to this. I would like to serve.
Many have.
But only to you.
No, I don't think that's the case.
Well, only to perhaps you and Ms. Pearson. But what I'm saying is, you aren't giving the community an opportunity to ask questions and to offer their services or what they could contribute to something like that, because you have your preconceived people of the ones that you want to put on there.
Actually, I'm hoping that once this does get started, that we actually have more people raise their hand and want to be a part of it.
We also have to recognize this has been happening since June. I'm not sure why this has become as news to some people all of a sudden. People have been crying about this for quite some time. I think,
It's not just since June. It's been longer than that. Yes, it is a problem. And we know that peer recovery has gotten blamed for a lot of things that they've had absolutely no control over or no part of. But, I don't disagree with what you're saying. It's just the method in which you are presenting it does not give our citizens an opportunity to have input, or and there's absolutely no transparency.
And then to talk about Mercy Housing Community Support, I don't know who the new director for the women's shelter is, but I don't think they're here.
They're not.
I don't think
The owner of the homeless shelter, Miracle Shelter, she's here, she's downstairs.
That's
That's Sandra Finn. She's been in operation for 2 years without any funding.
Sandra would be a perfect person. SRR
Yes.
would be a perfect person, which used to be the Rainbow House. Keith, who is with the homeless shelter, would be a perfect. Some pastors and local preachers who the gentleman just talked about in his area where they had to go around there. I mean, there's a lot of people that you guys are leaving out.
No, we're not leaving anyone out. We're actually wanting to get this started, get going, and then hopefully engage others and have them give that opportunity.
Community input.
This is what
No,
I
I
don't think
disagree
you
with
guys are understanding. We've had an immense amount of community input. We heard just a sliver of it tonight. Some of the people that have been named, the entire premise of this is to get the input of actual professionals. Some of the people you're naming, no credentials, no wherewithal in this space, and I'm wondering why they're the ones who are leading this stuff up.
Sometimes experience will trump credentials. And there's been times, and I want to come and speak. I've been in business for over 20 years. I retired 2 years ago. I came to help Sandra Finney. She was struggling with her business. I gave her 6 months of free consulting. After working with her, I saw that there was a great need. I'm also a landlord. And at the time, I was not in a position to do things that I wanted to do. But I did contact the women's shelter, and I said, I have some things I want to donate. When someone heard my name, they said, oh, she has rental property. I told them my property is not ready, but I can guarantee you within 2 weeks, I had my team working hard as we possibly could to get people housed. My facility is not perfect, but I can tell you that I have interviewed over 20 people that were homeless, and over half of them were not from Martinsville and Henry County. They came here through social media, someone they met online. They have come here because they moved to an area. Someone said, well, I'm going to Martinsville. They got to Martinsville. They left them homeless. I've had people that have had someone in their family die in the home they were living in, and she could no longer stay there because of she felt like she was being haunted. But it all goes back to mental health. You need the community service board. You not necessarily need a pastor, but you're going to need someone who's going to be compassionate for the people. You're going to need someone who doesn't mind sitting down eating with someone who's been homeless, who stinks, whose nails are dirty. And if you're not going to get someone who's going to do that, you're not going to get anywhere. You can have all the credentials you want. You could have lived all over the United States. But if you don't have somebody who can meet them where they are, you're going to be flat. And this city will not grow. Now, I've seen a lot of people come here and speak, and I was not prepared tonight. Someone called and told me. I threw a hat on my head, and I ran here because it is a need. Because if you don't fix it now, that first gentleman that spoke, they're having a child. And it's going to be generational if it's not fixed now. It's not about credentials. It's not about money. There's a homeless shelter here that is ready and open that can take 3 people tonight. This lady has been funding this business, Sandra Finney, for 2 years. And when I told some of my family members what the situation was, they have been pitching in. We have been buying food. We have been doing all that we possibly can. My children's homeschool group, they've been donating shirts, clothing. I've housed them. And I can tell you one of the best tenants I have was a homeless man. I have a 40-acre farm. If you want to fix this, you put some money behind it, you can move any shelter you want down there on it. It'll be a work, grow, and live program. If you really want to get it fixed, you give me a call. My name is Latasha Palmer. My number is 734-4953.
Thank you, Latasha.
I'll say this, I've worked with almost every community service board in this region. Epic, what happened, it was not right, but you're not the only one doing it.
So I appreciate the feedback, and I feel like we're probably closer to the same page than it may seem. Part of my concern is renominating all the people who were involved in this to begin with and expecting that we're going to get some sort of different outcome to this. That to me doesn't make any sense. The purpose of this commission is to help inform us as to what in the world is happening. This is not a commission that is going to be actually administering these services. Would it ultimately be working with folks like you? Certainly. Right now, we need to know what is happening. I have been working on this since June, incessantly. I spent my Christmas day doing this, staking people out, following buses, looking at who's going where. What's happening here is not right, and it is not above board. Until I have evidence to connect all the dots, who's doing what, where are they going, who's advertising their services elsewhere, how are they getting paid, to say it's not about the money, Latasha, I am sorry, that is not correct. It is absolutely about the money in here.
You could figure out where people are going by actually volunteering your time.
And being there.
That's the one thing that I'm seeing. Out of everyone here,
Do you want to come to the podium?
the only person, my name's Tony Davis, the only person that I've seen over at the PRC and over at the shelter, the warming center, is Mr. Chad Martin. That's the only one. As far as volunteering time, I, for the past few months, have been going over to the warming center. I sit back day in and day out and hear these people and their pleas and how they've come here. You have people saying things like busing people in. You have council people saying that. When in fact, out of everyone over at the center, I've had encountered 3 people from out of town. 3. I'm not saying that they're not there. I'm saying from the center. And you can shake your head no, but you haven't been there.
Here's the thing is we are working with volunteers and staff members on the warming center. We interview people who walk off of the warming center bus.
Volunteer and see for yourself.
Amen. Thank you. That's what I'm asking. If everyone here, I hear jeers when people up here are talking about helping. This is a community that prides itself. We started it off with prayer. Prayer without action does nothing.
Amen.
Does not a damn thing. All I'm asking is that the city council, with the exception of Mr. Martin, no one has come. You can say that you're working with whoever, volunteer that time. I've seen one other person come in for a meeting, did not interact with not one person. I've heard so many people over at the center, people who don't have toes because of frostbite. Individuals.
I've interviewed him too.
Individuals, and see, that's the thing, is he speaks highly of you, and that's the thing that I'm trying to understand.
I can help you understand.
Right. But I'm also coming across people who deal with trafficking, things of that nature, and
wear that one too.
But the thing is, though, no one here is volunteering that time. Ariel and Tom both, who were just here, day in and day out, along with Keith and Miss Z, are there day in, day out. They are tired. They are so tired. Keith and Tom aren't here right now because they had to get up because they don't have volunteers. If you have some type of management to where you were just able to actually, I don't know, allocate funds for individuals just to help, that in itself would be beneficial. It's above my pay grade to figure out exactly as to what to do, but I do know that I own a business for the past 5 years that I've wanted to move uptown. But when I see individuals saying not in my backyard, I don't know if I want my business there. Main reason being is because I want my community to help one another. Whether they're from out of town or not, we're all people.
All right, one thing I've noticed, and I've found this incredibly interesting in all the interviews I've done, it's a fair enough point about the warming center. I do work 3 jobs. I do have a lot.
I understand that, yeah.
You do. One of the things that concerns me immensely is when we talk about other groups in here who might be bad players, there's an immediate defensive reaction from someone in the warming center. And I don't know of people who are critiquing the warming center.
Because it feels attacked.
But why?
That's the thing.
My question is why?
Because when you have things like PRC and individuals aren't able to be in there because it is a safe place, even if you're not in peer recovery, it's still a safe place.
Well, one reason could be that one person beat on the bus for the women's shelter and said you're going to stop doing this. So it is
Exactly.
It
Yeah.
has been an attack.
There has been attacks in regards to it, whether it be from city council members, or citizens.
I'd like to
Seen
hear
it.
about those.
I've seen it and I've heard it.
Oh, that was me?
This just underscores the urgency of the matter.
Yes.
You're right.
He's not talking against your city.
Hey, listen. We all try. We've heard everybody.
Yes.
We
I
all
understand.
just.
Now we're spinning our wheels and waiting.
Yes.
Thank you. What this commission, the purpose of it, is to have someone out there who can connect the dots to what everybody here is saying. We all on the same page. We really are. Yes, I can't come down there and volunteer my time, but I came down there and took a meeting and spoke so I could figure out what the issue is. That was a part of putting this commission. That's how we all put this together, because we recognize there's a problem and we're trying to fix it. So we're all saying the same things, and there are a million ways to get to it,
Yes.
but we're doing something, and we're going to continue to work with
because
you.
we all want the same thing, but
Absolutely.
we're trying to, at the same time, facilitate the needs at the end of the day of the community. That's what we want.
Absolutely.
But one of the things that is frustrating is, number one, I think this is amazing. But the very people who work with them day to day were just here. And you don't want them on this committee?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Because, like I said, they're the ones who are day in, day out. They are firsthand
They can make
knowledge.
those connections of, this is providing services, this one is providing services, this one is providing services. Now, there's nothing wrong if you want to make
And they
sure
have the
these services
credentials.
are doing what they're supposed to be doing. I totally agree with you on that. I totally agree with you on that. But at least have people that are dealing with them firsthand,
Yep.
who talk to them all day, who sleep right beside them.
Break bread with them every single day.
I think probably the best thing, because as people have mentioned, we're kind of spinning our wheels. I would love to get on the media circuit, and I can share the conversations I've had with some of the people you guys have named. I'd love to welcome the chief up here to speak of some of his encounters, business owners, chamber. When we try to have conversations with these people, like I said earlier, evasion, attitude, tell us,
Never.
look at us in the eyeballs and say things that we know aren't true. And here's another issue that you've got.
Did Tom not sit down with you recently?
I love Tom.
Yeah.
Tom and I are on the same page, I feel like.
Ariel has sat down with you recently as well. That's something that,
Part of your issue is you have an intermingling of people among organizations that I think have a poor reputation in the community, in which people are on the record of having concerns with, are part of the same groups like the Warming Center, and I think that's why you guys might feel attacked. I don't know that I've ever had an issue with the Warming Center. I'm concerned someone considers it a drop-off from out of area, but with the Warming Center itself, I think it's one of the best services in Martinsville. I'd actually like to expand it. It's one of the things I'd like this commission to do. Like I said, we need a daytime thing. I also want something for people to do when it's above 32 degrees.
That's essentially what the purpose of me coming up here today is the fact that there is no in-between. There isn't anything in regards to Warming Center and then afterwards.
Right.
But at the same time, though, you do need people like Chad stated, people like Ariel, people like Tom, people like Keith, who are on that board, who are one-on-one, who sleep with them and break bread with them. I just volunteer time. Those people are people that I aspire to be. They're not on the board, then I don't necessarily know who can do a better job.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well said.
At this time, we'll hear comments from Police Chief Rob Fincher.
You have a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, getting ahead.
You have a motion and a second on the floor.
And plenty of discussion.
And
To establish the Emergency Housing and Community Support Commission.
I would respectfully ask that we create it, but to receive public input and also more dialogue from you three, because obviously that you have created this, but what your goal, your purpose, your plan, how do you plan to implement, how many times you meet, and then, there are people in the community who will gladly want to be a part of the solution, but you're not going to allow that because you want to pick your 5 people tonight.
We have, I think, 5 very good people. We're kind of prioritizing decorum over impact, which is kind of the entire purpose of this commission, is to actually do something. If we want to get a majority vote to wait another few weeks for this to flesh out and let people raise their hands.
You're going to vote, and that's fine. I do hope the community will give input.
We have had an immense amount of input. I think we're not communicating that.
I think one of the things that would be good for us to do, given that this is a huge topic, let's put all of that together. So that for the era of transparency, let's put all the information together. Let's present it at the next meeting. We'll also have, for those who want to be involved in this, we'll have the names of those people, give them the opportunity to seek and figure out exactly what we're doing. I think that'll be the best way. We just got to understand that we recognize there's a problem and we were rushing trying to get it fixed.
Yes.
But I also understand that if we do have people out there and they're just hearing it tonight, a lot of people want to get involved. So I look for a lot of people to reach out and show us that they want to get involved, because we ready to do whatever we can to fix this issue. So I think just we could.
Yes. So we.
And I don't think you have to table this. I think we can pass it.
We're gonna pass this,
Yes.
but
No,
but we're
saying
gonna
to have individuals.
yeah.
Language. That's so good.
I mean, if you're going to create a commission, you have to have your mission statement, your purpose, how you plan
Correct.
on implementing it.
Yes.
And none of that has been shared with our community. So, we need to be transparent with this and to receive public input, because there's a lot of people who have a lot of opinions, but there are a lot of people who are willing to help.
Absolutely.
And I think we need to hear from these people. So I think this is essential. It's needed. But I also think it needs to be a 2-step process.
The only thing that worries me is because it's language to it. I don't know what I'm really voting for. I mean, I hear some of the good stuff that potentially could come, but I don't really know what I'm voting for because there is no language.
There's no dialogue to it.
Yeah.
The vote's motion's been made.
So we have a motion and we have a second. All right. All in favor, say
Aye.
Aye.
So now we have comments from Chief Rob Fincher.
I've been in office 10 days. I feel like I've aged 2 years. Honorable Mayor, Honorable Vice Mayor, Honorable Members of Council, thank you for this opportunity to address the citizens in this format. I was asked by the Mayor and the Vice Mayor to briefly give some remarks as to my vision for the department and reassure the citizens of Martinsville our commitment to professionalism. But before I go into my prepared remarks, I feel it's necessary to kind of touch on a couple of topics that's been discussed tonight. And it has to do with our calls for service in the Uptown area. In the recent months, we've experienced a 27% increase in calls for service uptown, and those calls include suspicious persons, vandalisms, urinating in public, that sort of thing. The issue isn't really any of the agencies that are here right now. I'm kind of limited on what I can say at this point because I will tell you this, that we are going to be increasing our efforts and stuff to try to combat those issues. However, until we get to the root of the problem, it's just going to be a never-ending issue. And I firmly believe that the root of the issue is not something that falls within the walls of our jurisdiction. For that reason, I have consulted with an outside law enforcement agency that they've asked me to limit my remarks because of pending investigations that is going on with them. So I just wanted to mention that to try to reassure the citizens of Martinsville and in particular the uptown businesses that we are going to be attempting to address this issue the best we can.
Thank you.
Mr. Bishop,
Yes, sir.
before you take your seat,
No, I've got a lot more to go on. But
well, and you might include this in the presentation. Don't you guys have a kind of relationship with businesses? Because I've seen stickers on the outside of businesses saying like there's this partnership or relationship that you have with businesses that you have some kind of program.
Yes, we had a program, and that's something that we're wanting to bring back, referred to as Business Watch. I think most people are familiar with Neighborhood Watch. The idea is to have a business watch where the business owners get together and act like a neighborhood watch, because we kind of consider them to be their own business, in particular the uptown area. So that's something that we're wanting to return to. But when asked to discuss my vision for the department and talk about our professionalism, I quickly wanted to touch on 3 areas that are of particular importance. The first area is our department's commitment to community policing and trust building. These are more than just programs. They're intended to be a departmental philosophy, and no single factor has been more crucial to reducing crime levels than the partnership between the police and the community. So in order for us to be truly effective, the police officers cannot operate alone. We must have the active support and assistance of the citizens and the community that we serve, which is why the officers of the police department will be further encouraged to have positive interactions with the public outside of just responding to calls. These out-of-car experiences are of great benefit not only to the citizens, but they're a tremendous morale boost to the officers when they engage with the public. Additionally, it is our desire to help build on the public trust through increased transparency. One way we'll be doing such is by publishing key policies on our website, along with complaint procedures as well as compliment procedures. Another way that we will be furthering our officers is to increase their training in areas of use of force, de-escalation, and bias-free policing, which we will be requiring annually for every officer. These are topics that you can't just go to a school once and say you're done with it. It requires routine training. There's many other items that we're going to be implementing to help with community policing and building trust, but one more that I want to touch on is our continued participation in state accreditation. Right now, well, they're probably done now, but when I came over here, our accreditation team was meeting with a team of assessment professionals that have come in, and they'll be here over the next several days. They're going to be reviewing all of the police department's policies, practices, and trainings to ensure that what we are doing is the best and most professional manner we could possibly perform as a police department. The second area that I want to touch on is concerning the officers of the department. We have some of the best men and women police officers in the country. We want not only to continue that trend, but we want to enhance their abilities. It's my desire to promote a guardian officer culture rather than a warrior mindset. Not only do we want our officers to receive the best training available, but we must do what we can to also promote their mental health, their mental wellness as well. Furthermore, we must do what we can to provide adequate staffing levels to our officers. The increased demands placed upon our officers by the state legislature have created manpower shortages that overtax our officers and create potentially dangerous staffing levels. This past year, our officers spent over 3,500 manpower hours on emergency custody orders and temporary detention orders. That almost constitutes 2 full-time positions, and in the cost of the city of over $100,000. Another way to look at that is that's 3,500 hours that officers were not patrolling the streets, that were not out doing proactive enforcement. So we must do what we can to support those staffing levels. Right now, our department is 5 officers short. We recently hired 2 people, and we're testing and conducting background investigations on others. If we are fortunate to hire for all these vacancies, each one will have to go through the police academy, which starts in March. The academy is about 23 weeks long with an additional 12 weeks of field training. So put simply, by hiring someone today, we hope that they will start solo duty next year. So in the meantime, we're going to be seeking help from our law enforcement and community partners to act as a force multiplier to our officers. You may have already noticed and seen an increased presence by the Virginia State Police in the city of Martinsville. This is part and due to the governor's Bold Blue Line initiative, but is also in our part of our desire to be open to outside partners. When law enforcement agencies isolate themselves, it's a sign of a problem. So we will be working closely with law enforcement and community partners to help reduce crime and maintain safe neighborhoods. A third topic that I wanted to mention briefly is the necessity to fight the illegal drug trade. Illegal drugs are the cancer in our area. Every family has been touched by this evil in some fashion. Not only do drugs drive almost all of our crimes, but addiction and overdoses are literally destroying the lives and killing people in our community. The numbers have not come in yet for December, but from January to November of 2022, Martinsville had the 4th highest number of heroin and opioid overdoses in our division of the state. That was a total number, not per capita. That's total. We had more overdoses than the city of Danville and many other larger jurisdictions that are in our division. For this reason, all of our employees, both officers and civilians, have to be trained in the use of Narcan, not only to save the public, but to save officers if they're accidentally exposed. For this reason, we're going to continue our partnership with the DEA and the ATF and the U.S. Marshals. And for this reason, we seek to have an indictment on drug dealers at every grand jury term. What we must do is we must do what we can to stop the drug dealers. But at the same time, we have to find help for those that are addicted. So our focus will be on the dealers and not the users. We want to find help for the users and go after the dealers. What we must do what we can to prevent more tragedy from falling on our households. These are just but a few items, and I'm more than happy to meet with anyone to discuss what our further plans are. We've been here a long time tonight, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. But at this point, I'm willing to answer any questions, or we can meet later and discuss further questions there.
just had one, Chief.
Sure.
And thank you for the, it was on the opioid study they had from Virginia Tech here 2 or 3 years ago. Correct me if I'm wrong. Overdose, because we got the highest overdose, doesn't mean it translates to the highest death.
That's correct. Our fire department and our officers and our medical staff at the hospital are outstanding. We have a higher percentage of saves in dealing with overdoses than other jurisdictions, and that's fortunate. I wish we could save everybody though, because it doesn't always work out.
Are you fully staffed?
No.
How many are you down? I just missed that. I might have missed that.
So we just hired 2, so technically we're down 3. But 2 of those people, they're just trainees, so they're not capable of doing any work yet.
Okay, so technically down 3.
Yes.
Okay.
Point of interest that I think everybody would like to know but probably doesn't know, you use the acronyms ECO, TDO. What does that actually entail for your officers?
So an emergency custody order is an order to where that if someone has become a danger to themselves or to others, or they just need to be evaluated because that's a potential, gives our officers the authority to go and detain that person and take them to a hospital or a facility. At which time that there is allowed to be 8 hours that while they're being evaluated and determine whether or not they need to be with a temporary detention order be issued, which then allows them to be taken to a hospital or some other facility to receive treatment. Those TDOs will typically last 72 hours. At a minimum, that's if it doesn't require medical clearance. A lot of what we receive is that a patient is TDO'd, temporary detention order is issued, but they haven't received medical clearance because they're waiting on a bed at a facility. So until we have an opening, we have to sit with them at the hospital until that opening occurs. And that can be as many as we've spent a week sitting with an individual.
And that's a week off the streets for that officer.
That's correct.
Yep.
And then once we do receive it, we have to transport that person to whatever facility they have to go to. So it's frequently our officers have to drive to Williamsburg or other locations. And then the downside to that is that if something should occur while in transport, then they have to stop if they're using an alternative transport and then take over from there. Recently we had one that was being transferred or was going to be accepted at Southern Virginia, and they got combative. Southern Virginia cannot take anyone that's combative, so the officer had to redirect to the hospital in Danville. The whole process then began over again. So for 2 days we had a Martinsville officer sitting in Danville Hospital. For the outcome was that person was then TDO'd to Martinsville Hospital. So we sat with them for 2 days in Danville and then drove them back to Martinsville.
And this is not a problem that's indigenous to Martinsville.
That's correct.
It's all over the
Mr.
place.
Tinitzky, I think he was in the VML meeting with me that the people from Hampton, I think it was, the mayor from Hampton, said they were dealing with the same issue too.
Yes, the reason why it's really impacting us so heavily is because of when you go into more populated areas, they have more facilities, they also have more hospitals, that sort of stuff. Whereas Martinsville Hospital is kind of a regional system, so whether you live in Henry County, you live in the city of Martinsville, or a lot of areas in Patrick County, they may come up from Eden. The ECO is done wherever the person is at the time. So if they come to our hospital and then they say that they're going to leave or become combative, or if need be an ECO is issued, we have to be the one to serve that individual and stay with them, even though they may not be a Martinsville resident.
Thank you, Chief.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, next order, we have one addendum put in on the agenda here tonight. This is a proclamation acknowledging Monday, January 16th, 2023 as Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Is Reverend Tyler Milner?
He's coming up.
Okay.
Come on up, Reverend Milner.
How you doing, Reverend Member? So we have proclamation here recognizing Martinsville, recognizing Martin Luther King Jr. Day on Monday, January 16th, 2023. I'm going to read it. Whereas Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dedicated his life to ensuring the nation's fundamental principles of liberty and justice for all citizens, and whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. led the nation in a nonviolent civil rights movement during the 1950s and 1960s, beginning with the Montgomery bus boycott to obtain social, political, and economic equality for Black Americans and all oppressed peoples. And whereas Dr. King had a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meanings of its creed, which is that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. And whereas Dr. King earned worldwide recognition as to the equivalent and articulate spokesperson for equality, being the voice of a movement that spanned 2 decades and sparked nonviolent freedom protests around the world. And whereas Dr. King preached a doctrine of nonviolence to combat racism, segregation, discrimination, militarization, and economic injustice, and believed that each person has the moral capacity to serve and care for our fellow mankind. And whereas Dr. King was born on January 15, 1929, and attended segregated public schools in Georgia, began attending Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia at age of 15, and received a BA degree in 1948 from Morehouse College, following in the footsteps of both his father and grandfather. And in 1983, President Ronald Reagan signed a bill into law to create a federal holiday honoring Dr. King, third Monday of January, when the first such observance occurred on January 20, 1986. Now therefore, I, L.C. Jones, Mayor of City of Martinsville, Virginia, do hereby proclaim Martinsville Monday, January 16, 2023, as Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and encourage our citizens to participate and be active contributors, learning and providing suggestions, all done in a memory, honor, and celebration of King Holiday 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
The next order will recognize city employees who are eligible for service awards for the period of October 1st through December 31st of 2022.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Once a quarter, we recognize our employees who hit service milestones in their careers with the city. The service milestones are 5-year increments in their service. For the period October 1 through December 31, 2022, we had 5 employees: Laura Lawson in the fire department with 15 years, Elwood or Cliff Bryant in the garage with 15 years, Tim Jamison, 20 years with the fire department, Randy Milner, 25 years at the water plant, and then John Kazor, 25 years at the fire department. So, appreciate their service and the opportunity to recognize them. Thank you.
Next order, we'll hear information related to the need for an electric rate increase.
While Mr. Joyce comes up, I will tee this up for you. I'll just make a brief comment before Derwin takes over. All around us, we're seeing utilities come forward with the need to raise rates. We get copies of the filings that go before the State Corporation Commission. We've received several from APCO. Recently, we received another from the gas company. I know it's not a popular issue, but that's just simply a reality of, I think, what we face with a couple of issues. In our case, it's not only the cost of energy, but an issue that seems to be impacting us quite a bit is transmission. As I've attempted to describe before, when you look at city electric and you look at how the city's electric rates are derived, there's basically three parts to the city electric system. Number one is, or how the rates are derived. Number one is the cost of energy. We have to buy energy somewhere. Number two is transmission. We have to get that energy from wherever we buy it to the city. And then the third piece of that puzzle is the city's distribution system, and there's certainly a cost to run the substations in the city's electric department. There are a couple of issues that we're seeing. One in particular is transmission. That's an issue that is starting to have a significant impact on our electric rates. It's really beyond our control, and it's an increasing cost, and it's going up. Price of energy, of course, a lot of that, or a good part of that, is driven by decisions based at the federal level. We're seeing decisions, to move more toward green energy. That impacts coal plants, impacts, other operations. Derwin may comment on this. We just recently, in the past month, bought a block of power that represents about 25% of the city's need going out in 2024, and that price roughly doubled from the previous contract. So if you just look at going from roughly $30 a megawatt hour to almost $60 a megawatt hour, and something that represents roughly 25% of our load, you can do the math and see how that's going to impact our rates going forward. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Derwin, and after he finishes, we'll certainly attempt to answer any questions council may have. We're not really asking for council to take action tonight. We know this is a pretty heavy issue to lay on council in one meeting and expect a resolution, but what we would like to do is present this, give you an opportunity to look the information over. If you want to formulate questions and let us know, we'll bring those back to the next meeting. We will bring this back to the next meeting and then ask council to approve that rate increase. So, thank you.
Thank you, Leo.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. It's been an interesting meeting, so I don't know if this will maintain the interest that I've seen so far or not, but we'll get through it.
I suspect it will.
I know it is very much of interest to a lot of our customers, and I know there was a lot of business owners up here tonight, and I know they're certainly interested. I think Leon, I'll just kind of start from where he left off. I think he gave a good introduction of what we're looking at, and this has been going on, quite a few years. Especially the transmission increases. We've seen this over and over. I can think back a few years ago when we were seeing projections, say back around maybe 2018, 2019, and we saw these increases till maybe around 25, 26, and then it would started leveling out. So I was asking, some of our consultants and other people in industry, well, what are you seeing in the latter 20s that make you think these rates are going to level out? And they said, we're not seeing anything. We just think at some point it has to end. And I said, well, yeah, I agree. But now, here we are in 2023, and once I see these projections, they're continuing up. So we'll know what happens till we get there, but I haven't seen any good news on that front either. So we did do a cost of service study, and this is something that the last one we did was in 2015. And, as we go through time and rates change, our costs go up. Most of you have probably seen on your bill, you've seen a PCA, which is a power cost adjustment. And that's adjustment that is made to meet the increase in cost of energy, basically. We'd like to do a cost of service study from time to time because a PCA really should just address the cost of energy, and you shouldn't be covering operational costs and that kind of thing with a PCA. So when we do a cost of service study, we reset our base rate and then add the PCA that needs to be added to address just energy and not operational costs. So it's what this indicated was an 8% increase, and Once we got to looking at it, once we saw where we fell this year, a big concern this year, we've seen our cash reserves falling off. We've had some good years and bad years, but once we saw where it landed this year, that's where the additional 6% comes from. We're very low on cash reserves. And if we have a bad year, and I think I'll talk about this a little more, last year we were doing pretty good. I actually did a council presentation and electric update it was January or February, and I think it got us through December's data. At that time, we were about $350,000 to the good, which probably wasn't where we need to be, but we were at least in the, we were in the good. And then in January 22, because of the sudden increase in gas prices, we had a lot of transmission congestion because of some outages and planned outages on transmission. From January through really the last part of the fiscal year, I mean, our costs just went through the roof, and we ended up 22 in the hole pretty bad. And all that came really in those last 6 months. And things just changed. I've really never seen them change so quickly. Most of the time we do projections, we kind of know where things are going to go, and that just didn't work in 22. And I think a lot of people have seen those kind of increases that were unexpected. You notice I'll say that we've got some specific rates should be adjusted to reflect the cost of service. This is entirely up to council, but it's what our rate study shows is that we have some customer rates that are kind of covering their costs. We have other customer rates who are really they're behind where they should be. The rates they're paying aren't covering what their cost of service is. Of course, that means if you don't raise rates across the board for everyone, then some people are going to see higher than a 14% total increase. So that's a lot to think about, but that comes later. Right now, we're just, really the 8%. And even, notice we did put 6% plus or minus. I think as we get in further in the budget year, we'll narrow down on exactly what we will be looking at, for next fiscal year, starting July 1. But we did see some rates that we feel should be adjusted. This was based on FY21 data, and we had, like we were talking, we have had additional increases in 22 and 23. Leon mentioned the latest block power purchase price for 24-25, and that's it's on there. That's estimated about a $1.2 million increase. Next budget year, that would only be for half a year. That is an annual increase, so that wouldn't start until January of 24. But that last 6 months, we'll see that increase. So that's another factor that will come into play later on. If you have any questions, feel free just to ask, and I'll answer them as best I can. This is kind of just a snapshot of transmission rates over time. Where they're at, you'll see where they're at in 2022. You see they took a really big jump about 2019, and you can see what we've been dealing with the last couple of years. And then you can just see the forward projections. The projections are just projections, but that's best estimate. And this is actually our cost per megawatt hour of energy. This is the cost it adds to our rate. If you notice, back in 2014, it was about $4 an hour. Now, 22, we're up to $22 an hour. The $20 an hour next year, I think that's correct, but I'm not positive. We don't know what the transmission's going to be for the next planning year until sometime in December. So I'm not sure that is exactly correct, but it should be close.
Sorry. I'm just thinking about the pilot project with the battery. Are you seeing that help?
So it hasn't helped on transmission charges because that won't occur until next year. Next year we will see that because it had to meet the peak this year to reflect on next year's rates. But remember, the battery project, it's a 90-10 split until they recover their capital, which we estimate to be around year 5 or 6.
Okay.
So at that point,
we didn't pay for that.
No, we don't pay for that. At that point, it'll be a 50-50 split. We had seen about $130,000 in our share of the revenue from the frequency regulation market. So that was a check that was sent to the city. So we have at least, we have realized that. And then next year, we will see the difference in the transmission. They did hit the peak this year, so it will make a difference. Those are the transmission rate impacts. Transmission is actually the transmission lines that you see that get the energy here. Capacity really refers to generation. So PJM, they charge a set rate every year depending on how the generators bid into the market is what determines our capacity rates. And you can see it's kind of been all over the place. So it's kind of hard to anticipate where that goes. And the generators that bid this year, that price won't be met until, this is a 3-year ahead of time. They bid in and these prices hit 3 years later, whatever they bid in this year. So this is kind of an outward look. We have seen generation, you can see it's come down from what it was, what PJM has approved for generation. I don't know where that's going either. I don't have a good feel for it. There's just so many changes right now. A lot of things are just really unprecedented with renewables and some of the grid reliability issues. PJM just back over the Christmas holiday, prices spiked because they were down to about a 5% reserve margin. I can tell you they're not going to be happy with that. The last time that happened in 2014, I believe, which was the polar vortex. I'm trying to remember all the names. The latest was the bomb cyclone, I think. Everything gets named now. Mm-hmm. But they added much more of a penalty to the cost of the generator if they didn't operate during that emergency. And I know they went from, it was pretty low. I think right now it's right at $3,000 a megawatt hour for a generator that doesn't operate. So if you got 1,000 megawatts of generation that doesn't come online for 4 or 6 hours, that's a pretty stiff penalty. But one thing that did occur after that, after they upped that penalty, of course, generators saw that and they upped their prices a little bit. So I don't know how that may play out. I don't think anybody's really got a good handle on exactly what may happen after Christmas. That Christmas weekend was tough. It was tough on everybody, yes. As we mentioned, rising transmission costs have been the primary driver up to this point. We did see a big spike in January 22, and if you look at natural gas prices, electric energy prices track those. They go hand in hand. When gas prices go up, energy prices go up. When they go down, energy prices go down. On the 8% increase, you kind of see where the residential bill of 1,000 kilowatt hours would be. It would increase from $128.64 to $139.85. That would be with the 8% increase, which would also give us about a $1.5 million annual increase in revenues. The megawatt hours sold, I heard a lot of discussion from residents of Martinsville tonight about the industry we used to have and what things used to be like. And one thing that hurt the electric department is losing some of the industry we had here. That was a good, steady load, high load factors. Now we are very dependent on the weather as to how many megawatt hours we sell in a year's time. So that also kind of leads into, projections and what can happen in a year. And I think at the bottom, if you can see it, cash reserves, they're down to about $307,000. And our cash reserve policy suggests a balance. I talked to Mandy a little bit about this with our finance director. There's actually a formula. I didn't include it in here, but they suggest a balance of about $4.5 million. So that's where the 6% comes in July, is to try to get that cash reserve built back up to where it really should be. If it's lower, I'll leave it up to you and Leon to determine where that needs to be. But $307,000, it makes me nervous, because if we end up next year way over budget because of unforeseen cost, we got nothing. And just so I want to make sure everyone understands, because I think there's been some confusion in the past, but there's never been a transfer made from the general fund to the electric fund. Never has been. The electric fund has always covered its costs, and that probably needs to continue. I don't think we have any spare money in the general fund to transfer to electric, so I did want to make sure everyone was aware of that. This is probably kind of hard for you to make out, but this kind of shows, so the present rates are on the left, the revised rates are on the right. The first column you see is the number of customers in each rate class. And then the column D, that's the annual kilowatt hours of each rate class. The base, that's the E is the base what we recover in the base rate, and then that's the total. The FA is the PCA, the power cost adjustment, and the total is column G. And then you go over and see the revised rates at 8%. You just kind of follow that column down. You kind of see the difference in the figures for each rate, and then it all adds up to at the bottom about the $1.5 million. And that just kind of gives you an idea for each rate of what we're looking at. Just, you know, I think residential sanctuary, all that's pretty self-explanatory. Small general service is you know, probably some of these smaller uptown businesses that are less than 25 kW demand. They just pay a straight kilowatt hour rate. They don't pay a demand charge. A medium general service that is from 25 to 100 kW, they pay a kilowatt hour rate plus a demand charge. A demand charge is based on your highest 15 minutes of usage in a month. Then you move on up to medium general service time of day. Large general service, these are larger, more industrial type customers, grocery stores, larger, maybe some convenience stores. We have convenience stores that sell, like, maybe have a grill and chillers and gas pumps. They use quite a bit of electricity. They're usually either a medium or a large. And then large power service, that's heavy industry. We don't, as you can see, we don't have many of those. And then you have schools, and I'll have to look on here because I can't see on there. Commonwealth of Virginia, outdoor lighting. Street lighting is, that's what we provide for street. Outdoor lighting is dusted on lights we provide for the customer that pays for them. So that's the difference between outdoor and street lighting. And then you have the total system at the bottom. I wanted to talk about this a little bit, and I couldn't fit everything on this page. I get these numbers. This is a rate comparison. I get these from our, we're a member of MEPAD, which is the Municipal Electric Power Association of Virginia. And these rates come from the state corporation commissions, and these are really the rates, and I usually show this chart about once a year. And this is really the only place I like to go get those rates because I know these numbers are correct. If you go to APCO's website or Dominion's website, even some other municipals are a little tough, but you can go to APCO's website, you can find the kilowatt hour rate, you can find the customer charge, but when you start trying to dig into their tariffs and riders, it is very difficult to find. So these are the numbers that each utility reports to the State Corporation Commission every year. Usually it's as of July 1. But here it's showing them at 147.98. You can see there's a notation beside that. The best I can determine now, they're at 140.65, I think. I believe that's where AEP is at now. I thought, and that was as of October 1. I thought they had another rate case in November, but I have not been able to find out anything, and then I'm not sure what they may have coming up for next year.
They did send us legal notice that they had filed with the SCC.
Yeah, and I haven't seen an update. If I go on their website, I haven't. That's why I like to get numbers from here because I don't. If you go on the website, you don't know if they've updated the information But that's the latest I could determine was 140. They may very well be at the 147, but I can't verify that, so I wanted to make that clear. On some of these other rates, I know there's been some other municipals who have had increases since July, and most other municipals are like us. They usually do their rate increases, July 1, new fiscal year, and I think that's just another sign that this is really the situation here with COVID and what's happened after COVID and gas prices has happened very, very quickly, and it was unexpected, to say the least. And it's really led to rate increases across the nation. And I don't know that I have any good news for you, unfortunately, on where they may go from here. It just depends. Just to give an example of what we're looking at, we've been putting some money back every year to update all of our substations. So the first one we did was Aaron Street. That was about I think it came out about $850,000 project. That was a new transformer, new high side breaker. I mean, everything was replaced. Steel was in good shape, so that was painted with galvanized paint, looks brand new. Put a 10-foot fence around it with some privacy fencing. The transformer in 2018 was $602,000. Our next station that we want to do would be Spruce Street. That same transformer now is $998,000. And we've seen those kind of increases, not quite that bad across the board. Transformers are one of the worst. But I think as we work through budget, we won't have a choice but to look at some of our line items on material, and maybe we may have to increase those, 5 or 10%, I don't know. I think we're going to get with our purchasing agent and see we'll just have to price some of the smaller things and kind of see where that's at too. But that's what we're faced with. And we have the battery project that will help transmission. The solar project should be online in '24. I hate that got delayed because it would already be helping us if it had been able to come online in '21. But that will help also with transmission costs. So, that's a couple of things we've done to try to get a handle on those charges. And there's not a lot else we can do. Like Leon said, on the transmission rates, we're pretty powerless. And we have MEPAV at the state level, we have Blue Ridge Power Association at the federal level, and AMP at the federal level. AMP actually we have a representative on the PJM board. I won't say we get listened to very often. I don't think we have a lot of power, but at least our voice is there. They seem to pay much more attention to the transmission owners and the generation owners than they do to us. But this has been a concern for us for a long time. The way these rates are calculated, we understand the business of electricity. We have to, we spend money on improvements too, but we don't agree with some of the rates that we see increasing in the way those formulas are calculated. We don't feel the consumer's being looked after very well, but that doesn't seem to be the priority at the federal level.
So all of these all of these capital projects that, let's say, a Dominion or an AEP are doing has a direct reflection on our transmission costs.
Yes.
Because that's how PJM can justify their rates.
Yes. Yeah. If they're a member of PJM and Appalachian Power is, who is our transmission provider, then and it's pretty, they have two separate projects, or two types of projects on transmission. They have a base rate project, or a base load project, and a supplemental project. And beginning about 10 years ago, base load projects were typically what were done. Base load projects are fully reviewed by FERC. They're put out for competitive bid, RFPs, RFQs, and approved, and either approved or denied at the FERC level. Supplemental projects, they just do. And they're guaranteed a 10% rate of return on transmission. Anything they spend, they're guaranteed a 10% rate of return. So, as long as they're allowed to, they're going to gold plate their system. I mean, I don't blame them. I don't like it because of what it does to us, but that's something that really needs to change, I think, at the federal level, and I don't know that it will. But any questions? Like Leon said, I don't think we're asking for this tonight. I know this is a lot of information, but I will echo what he said. If you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. If I don't know the answer, I can get you the answer. If you have any concerns, let me know.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
This next section will consider approval for the city proposal 2023 legislative agenda. Mr. Turnick.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll try to be brief because I know you're getting tired.
Hungry.
Yeah. So we had a work session last night to go over the city's 2023 legislative agenda, and I will try to zip through this pretty quick. There were, as we finished the discussion, there were a couple of changes that were recommended. Just briefly, I'll go through these. I think in front of you, you have a revised copy, I think, that you prepared. So I'm looking from the actually the older version that we were looking at last night. As you recall, there was some conversation about the NCI funding. So that item, I think there was a request that we eliminate that. So under the education section, previously the NCI issue was number 4, so you'll see that's removed and it's now gone and everything else is renumbered. I'll jump ahead to something real quick because I believe council identified 3 priorities and asked that it be highlighted in some fashion. So you can see under economic development, item 2, that was one of the items that council pointed out as being a priority. So I just basically, for the purpose of showing that, just put it in italics and bold type and then put in parentheses after the end city priority. If you flip over, also under economic development, under item 8, expand grants and resources available to fiscally stressed localities and to business development entities in such localities and to aid in the encouragement or development of small and entrepreneurial businesses. That was one that was identified. And then under governance, number 7, elimination of all unfunded mandates from the Commonwealth to localities. That was identified as the 3rd city priority. So those 3 were highlighted. Let me see what other changes. I think Council Member Martin asked that we include an item about the food insecurity grant. So under economic development number 10, you'll see added in support continued funding. It's called the Virginia Food Access Investment Fund Grants Program. So just plug that in. Councilmember Rawls sent, or Vice Mayor Rawls sent a couple of requests for new language, and that is included under governance. I think they were added in as items 22 and 23. So you see those 2 sections to amend various sections of the Code of Virginia. There was a comment, I think, Councilmember Lawson, about properly funding the local public defender's office. That was added, item 24. There were 3 items that I indicated I would research, and unfortunately it just did not work out today, but I will continue to look at that. One of them was item 3 under governance, and that was in regard to the item. It's titled Urge the General Assembly to conform the state tax code to the 2018 changes in the federal income tax code. The second item was also under governance, number 20, support the alteration of award criteria in the Reach Virginia program. Actually, I attempted to look at that one late today, and when I Googled Reach Virginia, you would be surprised how many different programs titled Reach Virginia come up. So I quickly ran into a dead end on that one. And then item 3 under United States Congress, urge the Federal Highway Commission to adopt the CTV's designated route for I-73. I still haven't had a chance to look at that one. There was a question by Councilmember Pearson about 2 Capitals Consulting. I did tell you incorrectly. They were the firm that was used for our reversion efforts. I was more familiar with the name of the individual that we used rather than the name of the consultant. That was a one-time usage of that firm, so what I've done is just simply take it off the document, so it's no longer on there.
Who was the last consultant we did use that way on?
Well, David
For
Halleck.
the I-73.
That was John Stirrup and Rob Catron, and they had a firm, for the life of me I can't think of the name of the firm, but we used them back 2015, 16, 17. That's when that coalition between the city, the county, I think Franklin County, Rocky Mount, and then even Roanoke City, Roanoke County, kind of pitched together and funded them for several years running to continue to lobby for I-73, and that eventually kind of fizzled out. Exactly. I think that's it. That's the changes that we talked about. If council concurs, what I would suggest is that you approve the changes subject to me resolving those 3 items, and if those 3 items that I mentioned are still valid, then leave any 1 or 2 of the 3 in, provided they're still valid. If they're not, then we'll simply remove them from the document. And then once we...
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second.
just for the discussion, for those three that I mentioned, I want to make sure if we're doing this, we're voting for this or approving this, I just want to make sure those three that are mentioned that I cannot say for or against those three that I mentioned due to my employment with DEQ.
Okay. So noted. Thank you. And I'll certainly report back to council on those three items that need additional research and let you know what comes of that.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Next order is we have business from the floor. Any city residents that would like to speak that hasn't had an opportunity to speak already tonight? I think
Mr. Hairston would like to speak.
Oh, you already got it. You already got it.
Good evening, Leroy Spencer Hairston Jr., better known as Tula to some, and some not to others. Congratulations to our Honorable Mayor and Sister Mayor and other councilmen. As I sit back tonight, and the time is running faster than we were here longer than I thought we would be. But however, I hope tonight will be a gain for all of us here, those who were here earlier, who left. This has been one of the longest council meetings I have attended. A lot of laundry was thrown out that shouldn't have been, but that's the way the ball drops. As I leave here, I want you to ask yourself this question. Each one of y'all, and I've asked myself, are you satisfied the way the city is going now? And if you're not satisfied, only you can make the difference. I can't make the choice for you. I don't have the education sense like most of you all in this room have, but one thing I do, I can say I'm not as sharp as a knife in the drawer, and neither the last one the door will be picked up. I'm very mystified, very worried about how the city is going. And I just sit there just looking at the possible rate increase, of course, I'm just a fairly young citizen, but still getting half the senior citizen age. It's going to affect every one of us. Some of you all may know the answers and not telling it. There are some things that have been hidden will be found out there in due time. The skeletons will come out one way or the other. I'm a firm believer. If I hid something from someone, it's going to come back one day or another, hunt me, and bite me dressed as a dog that's biting some roughing at the gate, and a cat wagging his tail at the fence side of it. So I want you to know, each one of y'all, I wish y'all Godspeed. I'm not up here just to make a fool of myself. As you might think, I'm looking at some of y'all looking probably in the face, one in particular looking me in the face like, what is this dumb citizen saying? I'm saying the truth. I'm a firm believer, and I stick to it like I said at NCI. Whatever man sow, that he shall reap. So citizens, we all are here citizens of the city. We put these people in office. We can't change it overnight. It's going to take some months and months. We're going to have to work together. We'll either fall separate and die as fools. And I'm not no fool by any of you. And don't take y'all as a fool. But if you want to know, the bottom line is this: are we willing to work together and stop putting on a show? And that we are, and we're not. We're not fooling nobody but ourselves. Although I'm born April, not April Fool's Day. So you think I'm foolish up here standing here tonight. As I close my seat, I want you to know that what I say, what you say, what God says is going to count more. He's seeing everything. He's recording everything we do. I'm doing, you doing everything. So ask yourself, are you satisfied at the progress the city is making? If you're not, what can I do to change it? You can't change the world, but the world can change you. But you need to be the world to change see. I can say this: thank you for your time, and I wish you Godspeed. Drive home safe, and hope your homes are just like you come to them, like you left them. And I meant that. Some of you might think I'm foolish. I'm gonna come back again. Till they throw me out here, whatever. I'm gonna speak my mind, because that's what's wrong now. We have so many people don't speak to mind, should speak to mind, And those
Hear, hear.
people are scared to say anything. But I'm not a coward, and I want you to know that. And I'm not scared by anybody, because God didn't put us to fear me. So I'm telling you, ask yourself again. I'm asking myself even, if I look at that mirror, it don't look at nobody but me. When I stand for that man of God, whenever that day comes, I've got to give account what I did. And then you ask yourself, are you satisfied? And that goes for all people in the city government, not just the city councilman and mayor and assistant mayor. It goes for all officials here. It goes for every one of us in here. We all got to stand before the God, the same God, the same but different actions we're taking. So whether it be good or bad, your conscience will whoop you one way or the other. Because karma's not a dog that you want to play with and a cat you want to rub with.
Thank you. If it's
I'm not a coward either, but it's terrifying to stand up there.
It's hard to breathe, is it not? Yeah.
I held my breath the whole time.
City manager, do we have any
The only
thing?
comments we had, we covered earlier.
Okay.
Thank
Okay. So what, comments from council members?
Who you gonna call on first?
Mr. Martin, he's asleep.
I'll just say, while the vote has already happened, we just saw what we saw about the rate increase. The budget is going to be a very ugly process, not because it will be contentious, but because I don't think people realize how hard fiscally strapped Martinsville really is. But when the budget comes, we will see that. And I'll leave that one alone. On a lighter note, I am so glad to see, it's always amazing when you meet youth, especially at a middle school level, and now you see them at an adult level, and the amazing things that they're doing. These two gentlemen here with BTW met this young man that's behind the camera. They said, Chad, you're really gonna like these guys. They used to dress in suits every day. But when I met him, a whole lot shorter than what he is now, but he was selling me candy bars. And then to see Dustin doing the amazing work that he was doing at Martinsville High School with the forecast and the weather, and to see what he's doing now. And now I'm on his LinkedIn page, and so I see some of the stuff that he's doing. So it is always amazing to see what Martinsville High School, the Martinsville school system produces, and to see these gentlemen now here and the amazing things that they're doing now is just really an amazing thing to see. I'll stop.
Councilman Lawson.
Yes, the flags will be out Monday for Martin Luther King Day, and you're gonna talk about trash. Yeah, okay. And Saturday is the Martin Luther King Leadership Breakfast over at NCI. Would like to remind our citizens that 2023 is a reassessment year for real estate. I did confirm that with the Commissioner of Revenue last week, and so those letters should be going out shortly. I would imagine there are going to be quite a few people that have very surprised looks on their face when they see what their reassessment is, because reassessment also means that your tax bill gets bigger. I do have a request. When you all are preparing the narrative on the purpose and the proposed process, also if you would include if any staff time and cost will be involved with the committee. I think that's important for us to know, not only from a budgeting standpoint, but for staff time as well. So, and I think that was all I have.
Councilwoman Pierce.
Thank you. I just want to again say thank you to everyone who stood up and spoke tonight. I think sharing your insights is what this council's all about. And I want you to know your voice is being heard. And I think that's why we're so wanting to move so quickly to action, because we definitely want to do what's best for our community. The only other piece that I have is I would like to recognize the Martinsville Bulletin and its reporting. The investigative articles they've done regarding NCI, as well as the homeless situation and the activity or non-activity of organizations associated with these issues. I think has been stellar, in addition to many of their other articles and editorials. They're doing not only a great job in their reporting and being fact-based, but also in making sure that not only public officials and organizations are being held accountable, but also private businesses and private individuals. So if you don't subscribe, I'm not here to say go, get a subscription to the bulletin. However, I do encourage you to look into it and consider it. I think it behooves all of us to stay on top of what's happening in our local community, and I think the bulletin is providing a really good look into that. So thank you.
I'm going to echo that. I actually will take it a step farther. I do recommend you purchase a subscription. The work that they are doing, and of course, they're always looking into stories. Some of the biggest story we're working on now started with citizens, concerned citizens, who spent every waking moment they could on this issue. The bulletin picked up the slack when we said, guys, we physically don't have the bodies, the hours. We have to quit a job if we're going to do this. And they stepped up and looked into this. I think the editor mentioned it's one of the most reported story or most requested stories they'd ever written. It is by far the most populous topic I have ever been asked to talk about or address. So I'm incredibly thankful for the bulletin. It's my understanding and my hope that these stories will continue. We have not even scratched the surface of what's going on here. There's a lot more to come on that front. So on that note, we are moving with a purpose. We truly are. There's a lot that's got to be done here. We all know that. Change can be very difficult. Because things are contentious does not mean that they are bad. There's been sort of a legacy way of going about things, and then there's now an action-oriented way of going about things. That does not mean reckless, doesn't mean being capricious. That means when there is an urgent community need that we've seen floating around for months and no one has acted, we see a moment for the council to act, we need to act. And I think that's one of the charges we're going to take on. And I think that because we are doing our diligence, we are preparing, we are working with people in the community, despite some of the misgivings some may have, I think we're going to end up in the right place because of that. And then finally, I just want to echo Councilmember Pearson's comments. I am beyond thankful for every single one of you who contacted me, messaged me, called me. I go through my voicemails religiously with absolute, I'm not kidding, with absolute glee. Because as Mr. Harrison said, Thule, as I know him, if we don't have people speaking up, we can't fix these issues. This evening was required for us to understand publicly what is actually going on in the fabric of our community. This is a good step. I hope that you guys will continue to reach out to us with every single issue that you've got, including even the electric rate increase issue, as horrible as that will be.
I'll start off by thanking everybody that came out tonight, the media, the many citizens that came and spoke about the issues that we have. This was an extremely long meeting, but what happened tonight needed to happen. We needed to hear the voices of the people on these issues. And the beautiful thing about it, that there were so many sides of the issues that haven't been heard. And I feel it is very important, especially moving forward, that citizens have that voice and they have the opportunity to express themselves and talk about these issues, because that's the only way that we can get it out to the public and we could help find answers for it. Because it's not to say that the council has all the answers, and that's a huge part of it, is having that citizen involvement. So moving forward, I would encourage people to, if they have issues, bring them forward. Don't be afraid, as Mr. Harrison said, don't be afraid to speak out. Because that's what government is about, is making things happen. So that's all I have.
Just quickly to note that this coming Monday is a federal holiday, as we mentioned earlier. The city municipal building and offices will be closed. There will be no trash pickup or bulk pickup on Monday. If there is an emergency over the weekend, I haven't looked ahead, so I'm not sure what the weather holds for us. But in the event there is an after-hours call number that citizens can reach out to contact utilities in the event it's a power issue or even water, sewer, or even the street issue. So there is an emergency after-hours call number that we do utilize. That's all I have.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Yeah.